A very warm welcome to everyone joining us for the knockout stage of the play-in tournament for the Freestyle World Chess Championship. I am your host, International Master Anna Rudolph, joined by world-class commentator, Grandmaster David Howell. David, how are you feeling today? And what do we have on our hands? What is the agenda for the show?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, Anna. I always am. Yesterday, we had some freestyle chess. It was always fun. It was always fast, very furious as well. And today, it all comes down to this. We have 4 players remaining. We'll be playing the semifinals and then the finals, but only one will emerge and get their spot in the Freestyle World Championship next month in February in Weissenhaus. The stakes couldn't be higher, Anna.
They could not be higher, and the 4 players remaining, they are coming from a field of 104 players. That was yesterday's Swiss stage. 104 really strong players, many grandmasters fighting for the one qualification spot that you mentioned, David. Only 4 remain, and it's going to be a slightly different format and also different time control. We will see a knockout between 2 matches, the semifinals starting very soon, with the time control being 15 minutes plus 30-second increment per move. It is the best of 2, so if you make it to a 1.5 point mark, you win the match. But in case of a tie, we will see Armageddon bidding. I am already looking forward to that, David. And of course, as you have mentioned, there's only one spot remaining in the Freestyle World Chess Championship. That's what all these 4 players are here for. They want to qualify. They want to make it to the field where Magnus Carlsen will try to get yet another title. What we have here are 2 really strong matchups. Nodirbek Abdusattor facing Amin Tabatabaei and Pranav against Grigory Oparin. David, when you think about yesterday's play-in Swiss format and see these 4 names, do you give better chances for any of them? How do you see the field, and who would you predict will emerge? Who will make it to the finals?
Oh, I don't want to give a boring answer, but I do have a feeling that Nodirbek Abdusattor is a slight favorite heading into today. They're all, of course, super strong grandmasters. I just think he has the experience. He's played a bit on the freestyle tour last year. He actually did quite well. Just had the misfortune to always run into Magnus Carlsen in the quarterfinals. And
that's a misfortune, isn't it?
Exactly. It can happen to anyone. But I think Nodirbek, that little bit of experience. Amin Tabatabaei, though, did get a bit of luck yesterday in the final round. His opponent mouse slipped in a totally winning position. So sometimes that's the kind of the jump start you need. That little bit of luck in order to feel like this is your year. So I think maybe the winner of the bracket will come from that top match.
I'm going to take a different pick because I'm looking at the other side of the semifinals, and we have there 2 of the players that were on 100% score for the majority of the play-in yesterday. Pranav and Grigory Oparin started really well, and then Oparin actually was the only player on 100% score after 6 rounds. He was leading all the way until the final round. He was the only man standing ahead of the field, so I'm going to give him a bit better chances, even though the end of his tournament yesterday spoiled it all. And Pranav, you can never tell what kind of a streak he'll go on. He's capable of winning it all, I feel like.
Exactly. He's the world junior champion for a reason. Super dangerous. And I can't wait for the games to start, Anna.
We'll have a position reveal in just about a minute. And before we get there, let's take a look at the prize fund and the prices for the players. What is it that they are playing for? $5,000 in total. The first place is $1,700. Then for the second place, $550 for third and fourth as well. But of course, the main prize here is the qualification to the Freestyle World Chess Championship. So first place is $1,000 and a huge qualification spot, the one last remaining spot for the Freestyle World Championship coming up in Weissenhaus next month. What do you think, David, is like when it's 4 of you remaining in the field and everyone wants that one spot? How do you approach this? What's the mindset? What would you, if you were the coach of these players, what would you say?
Yeah, it is tough because traditionally, kind of when the finishing line gets in sight, you start to tense up a bit. You get a bit more nervous. You realize, it's not just the $1,000 at the end of today. It's potentially a lot more than that at the World Championship. It's potentially a world title. I think my advice would be to try and forget to just try and figure out what's going on in the opening, especially. The players are also strong that if they can navigate the openings in freestyle chess, they tend to be putting themselves in a good position. So stay sharp, stay strong. For Nodirbek, do more of the same. For Oparin, try to recapture that confidence he had at the start of the day. It's difficult, and it's always a bit of a lottery, but you have to stay focused.
Some great advice there. I hope that they were listening, but most likely they are actually just booting up their PCs, getting everything ready for the kickoff. We will soon have the reveal of the first position. Reminder that this is freestyle chess, so there's a lot of potential starting positions. That is being 959 initial positions. All the positions possible except for the traditional one. When it comes to freestyle chess, David, you have given us some tips yesterday, but what would be the summary? What are some of the key things to look at when you are given a starting position and how to approach it?
Yeah, we all learned a lot yesterday, and just this last 12 months alone, I think we've all learned so much about Chess 960, freestyle chess. I would say look after the pieces. Everyone needs to talk to their pieces. Yesterday, we saw so many cases of a trapped queen on h1 or a trapped knight on a1. People were just forgetting to develop everything. So as long as there's some harmony in the position, you'll always have chances. We saw so many grandmasters just forget about the basics. And sometimes tactics only work in your favor if all of your pieces are out in the battle. How about you, Anna? What were your big takeaways?
Connect 4, I thought that was the main one, isn't it? Like immediate win. Well, no, it's an immediate win if it's Connect 5. I'm sorry, I didn't learn it properly. But Connect 4 is quite advantageous.
Yeah, it's a big advantage no matter what. Forget the pieces that I was just talking about. It's all about the little guys.
No, honestly, you summed everything up so well. I don't know if there's anything more I would add to it. I was taking notes yesterday as you were describing the games and what to look for. What are the what way to approach freestyle chess, because it's still so refreshing. I think that's what we all love about freestyle or Fischer random chess, that it is just such a fresh take on an ancient game. There is no opening theory. And honestly, I think most of us as spectators, we are happy with that there is no 20 moves played out of memory and home preparation. The players are thinking from move 1 on. We saw mistakes on move 1. Like, you can make a mistake as early as on your very first move. That's how difficult and creative and fun freestyle chess is.
Exactly. I like to think of it as a maze. It's a bit of a labyrinth, chess in general. But in traditional chess, classical chess, we've studied some openings. So we have a bit of a map. We know how to start the journey. We know kind of where we want to end up, probably which turns to take along the way. Still never easy. But freestyle, there's no map. You're literally blindly stumbling into this labyrinth, stumbling in the dark. And that's why the mistakes happen on move 1. If you take the wrong turn early, you might not even get a chance in the race. And it's always a lot of fun, kind of just looking at things with fresh eyes, Anna. It's refreshing, as you say, for commentators, players, for everyone.
It really is. And I also love when you were talking about, for instance, the approach of Levon Aronian and how he sees it as a canvas for his art. Like, what can I create from this? Let the pieces talk to you. Let the magic happen.
Exactly. And I genuinely think that creativity that Levon Aronian has kind of discovered again over the last 12 months, and so many players we saw yesterday, just it really helps. We didn't see many of the players maybe who we associate with deep opening study, with more solid styles. We didn't see much of that yesterday. We saw it was the firebrands, the more creative players who did rise to the top. No coincidence, I feel.
Very true, very true. And also so many decisive results. It feels like it's harder to make a draw in freestyle chess, at least harder to equalize out of the opening. And then if one of the players have the edge, they usually, of course, try to make the most of it. There have been lots of roller coasters as well, because it's a very fast time control. Today, the players will have a bit more time. So I'm expecting that will increase the overall quality, in a sense that there will be less big mistakes. But then again, the position will always be new. And it's what you were talking about when it comes to the map that's missing, the labyrinth where everyone can get lost, even the best and top chess players in the world. The position is being selected right now, by the way, so the players will be soon told about the starting position. They will have about 3 minutes to analyze it before the games kick in. And I think before we also reveal that position, David, we can talk about the field. Oh, just as I was saying it, I think we have a reveal. Let's bring it onto our board, should we? What do we have here, David?
Wow, this is very similar to something we had yesterday. Minor pieces all on one side of the board, and then the major pieces all on the other. That is crazy. I hadn't seen that across the whole year of freestyle chess in 2025. It happened twice yesterday, kind of one on the right, one on the left, and then kind of switched. Anna, what's this? It's as if someone likes their pretty patterns.
They really like their pretty patterns. We swear this is random, but as you mentioned, it happened twice yesterday, one on the queen side, one on the king side. This time we have the minor pieces on the king side, heavy pieces on the queen side. I like it. I like the pretty patterns. I like geometry. I like how it looks. It's very aesthetic. What I don't like is that I don't know how to handle this. So I would love to pick your brain about this position. David, what would be your main approach? How do you develop your pieces and where do you castle?
Yeah, that last question you mentioned, that's always one of the keys in freestyle. It's kind of castling now towards this side takes ages. Getting the knight out the way, both bishops out the way. I don't know. It's going to take a while. I always look for undefended pawns as well. I don't think it's the most relevant here, although it is possible to attack a pawn as early as move 1 if white, for example, plays c3 or c4. So maybe the white players will be tempted to try and gain that tempo with the queen hitting h7. And I have a feeling we'll see either the players play really classically, like play like e4, knight f3, bring the bishop out, d3, try and just occupy the center, or we'll see some funky stuff with maybe some early like a4, a5 just to activate this rook, and then just not castling at all. Because white's pretty much castled queenside. The problem is the a rook needs to get into the game at some point. How about yourself? What comes to mind?
I really like the way you described some of the plans. In the meantime, I was also observing, by the way, the player cameras, because I have a secret window here where I can already see the players. We'll show, of course, those cameras soon on the broadcast as well. But what caught my attention, David, as you were describing, oh, there we have it, of course. And it's still the same case. So I'm glad that the producer is so ready to show it, because that's what was happening for the past couple of minutes, that everyone out of the 4 players except Nodirbek Abdusattorov was looking at the screen, focusing on the initial position, while Nodirbek is looking at anywhere but the screen, or maybe he has a second screen. I just felt like he was maybe looking away, getting inspiration, maybe just like, Beth Harmon style, visualizing on the ceiling or on the side of the wall. But now he's also looking into the camera and in the direction of the screen, I feel like. David, what is it like? Does it help sometimes to look away, even if it's just the starting position?
Yeah, I mean, I've played a lot of online tournaments, and sometimes you need to kind of get the mind out of calculation mode or something, just to release the tension, whether that is just kind of changing your body language, looking away from the screen. If you lock in and stare at a screen nonstop for 30 minutes, your eyes start to go a bit fuzzy. You might miss basic tactics. So I'm not surprised. Nodirbek now looks a bit more locked in, trying to figure out what to do first. But he tends to be quite instinctive. He likes to calculate, but I think he likes to also go with the flow. I'm not surprised at all. Maybe for the likes of Pranav and Oparin, who put more emphasis on the early stages, for them, it's less surprising that they have probably been trying to figure out what to do on the first few moves over the last 3 minutes. But it looks like we're good to go. Anna, last minute predictions. It's Tabatabaei and Oparin who start with white.
Oh, I think that it might happen what you were saying about the C pawn. We still have the traditional board on the left side, but that actually on the right side too. Maybe there's a slight glitch in the system. We swear this is not traditional chess. This is freestyle, and we will shortly switch to the actual boards and the actual positions. It will be a surprise when we get there. Why are we seeing e4, e5? I'm confused.
They want to battle it out in the Berlin or the Petrov. We're not going to allow that, we promise. And here we go. This is the real board. Tabatabaei against Abdusattorov. And it's the knights that come out first. I think very flexible. They're still reluctant to decide which pawns to push.
I like the flexibility, and now we do see one more committal decision, the pawn push, which makes a lot of sense to push one of your central pawns. It's already supported by the rook as well. Black does the same. It's very very much in the same vein. You could actually now repeat the same moves of the knight jumps. Knight g3 and knight f6 would be a complete mirror position. We might see that, because why not?
Exactly. Like, black doesn't need to kind of put too much pressure on themselves to create something early. Often as black, you can just relax knowing that, okay, it's symmetrical, the play will go on. Normally the pressure's on white to try and break that symmetry, lash out, get the queen out. And I'm confused how the queens are actually coming into the game. Like, maybe you play like c3 and c6, but that would not be healthy for the bishops that stand in the center. That would lock those in. At some point, you normally want to get your queen out. And okay, he goes e3. Maybe the idea is to play some kind of queen's gambit type of structure by pushing c4 next, now that it's defended by the bishop. And the kind of first priority is to release the queen.
I like what you're saying about the pawn push, and I have been a bit concerned about this e1 bishop, because probably it's the most difficult to develop out of all the pieces that we got in this starting position for today's semifinals. Again, both players are going for the same approach. It's a mirror position, but it will be white to push c4 first, and then the question will be on Nodirbek's side whether you take it. Do you overprotect the d5 pawn? Do you try to push c5 yourself? What will happen once there is a queen's gambit looking like position?
Exactly. Every move does have consequences, though. And just out of curiosity, Anna, here, I would play c4 in a heartbeat, and I'd probably get punished for it. But I was wondering, why not c4? And I've just noticed the computer points out something really crazy that I would struggle to see just visually. And it's all about the black bishops, which we mentioned. I mean, the bishops in general are the issue, and black can now gain time hitting the white rook, and only clumsy squares available for that rook. If you block, then suddenly there might be a check, and white will lose castling rights, and the other bishop will drop back. I'm not sure who this benefits. The bishop might just get trapped on a3, but it's definitely something to consider. And maybe that's why he didn't play c4 after a bit of a think, Tabatabaei.
That is so cool what you have shown us about making white push the b pawn, so that then you can give a check, so that then you take away the chance of castling forever from white. And there was no other way other than pushing the pawn or moving the rook to an awkward square. So this makes perfect sense why Tabatabaei chooses to develop the bishop instead of advancing the pawn. But that will still leave this b1 queen stuck. And we have been talking about how important it is to activate your queen early in freestyle chess and not let it get stuck in the corner, not let it get into this weird situation. Because in traditional chess, the queen is on one of the central files and you push those pawns early in the game. While in freestyle, if you get it somewhere here in the corner or on b1 in this case, it's a lot harder to see where should it go. I'm still curious how this game will develop, but I want to compare it to the other semifinal game that we have. And I just want to highlight how different of an approach we have. Same starting position, 4 really strong grandmasters, but a very different setup. Let's compare it to the Tabatabaei Abdusattorov game, how it developed in the Oparin Pranav semifinal match with the same starting position.
Yeah, let's do it. And it's a case of the knights all mirroring each other. I think the way they started with the minor pieces all on the right flank, all on the king side, it was just so natural for both boards to play knight f3, knight g3, knight f6, knight g6. And yeah, it's the pawn play that kind of is surprising. And quick action replay, as you mentioned, Anna, just to go back. It was knight f3, e4, e5, knight f3. And unfortunately, black can't play knight c6, which you normally do. So knight g6 to defend the pawn. And here, yeah, that advantage of the first move with white is so important because white now gets to strike out. White queen defends the pawn in the center and has an open diagonal. And black, rather than give white the pawn center, says, okay, we'll keep the tension. c6 also opens up the black queen. And it's just really tense, but it looks like a good opening for white here, for Oparin. Just because he's got the center, just because it's hard to know what to do with the black pieces, especially the e8 bishop, I think is going to be tough to get off the back rank.
Yeah, I really like how this developed for Oparin, and now we've got his camera back as well, because for a moment I thought he was channeling his inner Pranav. You could see 2 Pranavs on the screen, but Oparin is here, he's back, and he's, I think, the one that has gotten the best out of the starting position in the semifinals. I really like the position, even though it's only a few moves. This is move 5. It's such an early stage in the game, but the evaluation bar is already showing quite a substantial advantage for white.
Yeah, and that might be because now black is going to lose castling rights. I was reluctant to maybe take the pawn in the center. It actually, the pawn structure as it was reminiscent of some variations of the Italian game where white just holds d4 and e4 forever, maneuvers behind, and because white has more space, it's easier to maneuver the pieces. He's going much more direct, Oparin now. And what do you make of this, Anna? No matter what captures on e5, eventually there's going to be rook takes rook, and the black king will be stranded, at least in the short term, in the center.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the capture myself, but it does make sense that Oparin wanted to capture that rook to make sure that black can never castle. At the same time, it has led to multiple trades of pieces, and with less pieces, I don't think it's that scary that you cannot castle anymore. You just need to figure out the right setup, because you do want to activate, of course, both the queen and the rook that are standing in the corner for black, and without castling, it's somewhat more difficult. So what would be the right way to place those 3 pieces, David? How do you handle this situation?
Yeah, it's tricky. I'm trying to figure out how to get, like you said, the queen and king off the back rank to play rook to d8. White's ready to castle immediately, so just to show a variation, queen d6 would be a huge blunder, getting the queen off the back rank, for example, because white's king wouldn't castle through check, and we could do this. Good. There we go. And a skewer here, the queen and the king. So black's queen struggles to get off the back rank. I wonder, like, one of the pieces has to use c7. The king doesn't really want to go to e7 because there's a knight check. Oh, it is tricky, and I guess that's why he's thinking so much right now, Pranav. But the structure being so kind of symmetrical now and so stuck means that if he can get his pieces out, he's probably fine. Maybe bishop d7 will block the check.
It makes sense why Oparin went for this, because it is not that simple, not as clear cut how black should place his pieces. But you're right that if black does find within the next few moves a way to place the king on a more safe location and get the heavy pieces activated, then it should be fine for black. It's a very solid position, but there's that if on how do you get there? Do you place the king on c7 and try to move the queen out? White will castle regardless and takes away the d file. I like the suggestion that you're drawing with queen c8 and queen e6. That could be potentially the most straightforward approach, whether now or after king c7, to get the queen onto e6, targeting the a2 pawn, which will be hanging after castling queenside for white.
Yeah, I agree as well. Like somehow it would be nice to gain a bit of time back for black, because it looks like black will have to waste several tempi getting organized. I just don't think there's any kind of weak spots for white to attack. Like there's no pawn breaks. Like f4 is never really on the cards. Doesn't look realistic. What else? Is white really going to be pushing the a pawn if white's getting ready to castle on that side? So I think the lack of pawn breaks means that Oparin will not really be able to generate any attack. So Pranav does have maybe 3 or 4 moves to get organized. Queen c7, king c7. I think probably the 2, or maybe queen c8. The few candidate moves in this position.
I think he went for, let's catch up, because he did choose the c7 square, but for the queen, surprisingly. I think we expected more the king going that way, and now blocking the check with the knight on d7. This looks like a bit crowded in there near the king. No immediate danger, but it makes the black pieces really passive. The bishops, the knight in the pin, the king still needs to move somewhere. And the rook is not coming out just yet. I'm not sure I like this.
Yeah, it does look a bit clumsy. Bit of a traffic jam. Black needs like f6, bishop f7, king e8, rook d8, and then he's fine. But 4 moves, that's a lot to ask for.
Do you think that's what he's aiming for? That's why he went for this setup? Because he does want to push the pawn, the f pawn, to make space for the light squared bishop and then move the king out?
It must be, right? Like the bishop on e8 is otherwise just really stuck. The other way would be like pushing the king to c8, but then the black rook is still stuck, and then the knight moves, and then the bishop gets out. But Okay, this is a chance for Oparin. He's got a lot of time on the clock. Feels like he needs something in the next 2 or 3 moves before black is fully ready. I don't see it yet.
Yeah. And can he do something with this momentum? As you said, it looks really good for white, but there is no pawn break. There is no way of immediately hitting something in black's camp, and that gives time for Pranav to settle the situation and regroup his pieces. So it's looking good for white, but there's nothing direct, nothing concrete that can harm black's momentary clumsy piece setup.
Yeah, I don't see anything immediate. I mean, the candidate moves would be to develop the light squared bishop somewhere, c4 or e2, maybe this diagonal as well. I would be looking at knight to f5, but I don't really see what the answer is if black kicks the knight out. Maybe this is a good moment, Anna, to let Oparin go into the tank and think a bit more. He plays f3, so maybe bishop f2 to come next, or bring the knight out, and bishop h4 check could be a new angle. But yeah, let's maybe allow the players a bit of time to untangle their pieces before we jump back to this one.
I think that's a great plan, and we could go back to our bird's eye view because there are still 4 players remaining in the field. Reminder that we started with 104 players yesterday in the Swiss stage, and today it's already the knockout and final day of the play-in for the Freestyle World Chess Championship taking place next month in Weissenhaus. And all of these 4 players, of course, are fighting for that one remaining qualification spot. We have quite development in the game between Tabatabaei and Abdusaturo. We could check in with what happened there, David, since we last saw the game out of the opening. It was a very solid approach from the starting position with the knights developing and quite a mirror situation, which no longer is the case.
Yeah, it's no longer the case. And I mean, the other one was developing at a snail's pace the other game. This one is, I mean, lightning speed almost. They're happy to trade off the pawns, almost symmetrical as well.
This looks like traditional chess. This is no longer random.
Yeah, and they managed to castle, which is more than can be said for Pranav on the other board. At least they got their kings to safety. Actually, this could easily be a queen's gambit, right? Like, or some kind of symmetrical English that opened up in the center.
True, very, very similar to traditional Queen's Gambit positions. And right now it is Tabatabaei's turn to figure out what to do after the capture took place on c4. He's thinking because he has 2 potential captures, as David is showing on the board. What are the pros and cons for each, David? What is it that he's assessing, you think?
Yeah, I would say the con to this is that now, okay, the queen side is totally blocked. The symmetrical structures kind of, okay, both sides have pros and cons. I would say the downside for white is that b4 is quite weak. I don't really like, just short term, the fact that the black knight can come and hit this pawn. Long term, maybe the white knight gets to c5 and it's a beautiful outpost. So I think the downside to a takes b6 is that everything would have just been traded off on the queen side. Black would have gone for that pawn. Probably a takes b6 was more less ambitious, but I don't know, also safer. So my style, Anna, I would want to minimize the risk in game 1 of a mini match like this. I would probably have taken on b6, hope the whole queen side disappeared, and said, okay, worst comes to worst, it's just level. Here, it could turn against white quite quickly.
Yeah, I do see the risk factor in it too, but maybe it also means good news when it comes to the ambition of Tabatabaei, that he doesn't want to just simplify the position. He wants to have more life in this middle game, heading toward an end game, and that means that he will try to. At the same time as I'm saying it, 1 pair of rooks come off. I thought maybe there will be a second trade, but it wasn't possible immediately because of the pawn on e5 that would have been hanging at the end of the day. So no second rook coming off of the board, but both rooks have an open file, and it seems like a very balanced position. I think both games, I was going to say, are very solid. And then I'm looking at Pranav's king on e7. Maybe if we go back to the bird's eye view just for a moment to take in that, yeah, that is an uncastled king. Delayed bone cloud by Pranav on the right side of our screen. So far safe, though. The knight cannot jump to f5, which is key.
Yeah, he's covered almost every square on his half of the board. Actually, he has covered everything on the 5th, 6th, and 7th ranks, Pranav. And that's why the king is safe. White's knight, white's bishops can't jump. That's the blue board on the right of your screens, ladies and gentlemen at home. And yeah, it feels like he's survived the opening in decent shape. We were worried about the black king. I think we should be less worried now. Maybe more worried about the black dark squared bishop, which is still blocked. But it feels like Oparin hasn't made the most of the 2 or 3 moves that he had, that he was given. And Pranav has untangled very, very nicely.
He has done so very nicely. I think the only worrying factor remaining for black in that game is the time situation. Grigory Oparin with basically twice as much time than his opponent. So there's some pressure when it comes to the clock. This is a rapid game, 15 minutes and a 3-second increment per move. So not that much of an increment when it comes to going low on time. Pranav probably will try to speed up and not let that happen, that he needs to live off of the 3-second increment.
Mm-hmm. And Anna, out of the 4 players, who do you think is the happiest so far? And if they stay balanced, which they look right now, do you think the players with the black pieces, will it be those who have more optimism going into this second game of the mini matches?
I think so. I think it has gone well in the opening for both Abdusattorov and Pranav. Yes, there is a king on e7, but there's no way of attacking it and not many pieces left on the board. So it's actually a pretty safe king, even if it's the only one that didn't manage to cost. So no opening trouble for either players with the black pieces. And a reminder that these are mini matches. So David, I think you've got the right take on this, that the players here with the black pieces have equalized, have done a good job from the starting position, and when they will have the white pieces, maybe they will have some fresh new ideas because they have tried the same initial position, and they will get a second chance at going at it from white's perspective.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because normally in chess, you're like, okay, draw with black, win with white. That's the recipe. That's what we've been taught from a young age. But yeah, in freestyle, although white feels like an advantage, some positions are really advantageous, some are just totally level. Some you can be worse with white after one move. So it does feel like a bit more of a lottery. But here, yeah, I think I would be very happy if I were Nodirbek, Abdusattorov, 0 risk position, white next, and likewise Pranav. I think just the way the game has gone, feels like momentum was against him. Suddenly it's turned back. So very tense moments. Maybe the time scramble is where these games will be decided.
That could be the case. That really could be. There's a slight change in the evaluation in Abdusattorov's game in favor of Abdusattorov. It looks like the computer wasn't very happy with this h4 pawn push, and Nodirbek is trying to punish it immediately by jumping into the center with the knight, opening up the diagonal of his queen. So that's pointing out how that pawn is vulnerable. It's hanging, and there's not really a way to defend it other than pushing it further ahead.
Yeah, and I just want to take us back a few moves because Tabatabaei has done something really strange to my eyes. Like, this was where we left it, and he played h3, which looks healthy. He gives his king some escape squares just in case, no back rank checkmates anymore. Rook c7, some waiting moves, and it feels like he just got impatient, or maybe he was kind of triggered. He was provoked by king to h7, and he's like, okay, let's attack. But he did just play h3. So to play h4 now is a clear loss of a move. He could be improving his bishop, for example, and I don't know, h4, I think it's just a series of double attacks, Anna. Knight e4, like you said, hits h4, but also threatens knight takes g3, threatens knight c3, and if the knight is captured, it's also a double attack in a way. h4 is hit, and bishop c2 is a big threat. So h5, like you said, is maybe the key move, but I would be really scared now of some kind of tactics happening.
And he ends up taking the knight, but it's what you said, after knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, there is again a double threat with the bishop c2 double attack, and the pawn on h4 is still hanging. He gets an exclamation mark from the computer by playing bishop to d3, eliminating the bigger threat and leaving his pawn up for grab. It's better to lose a pawn than to lose your rook, so makes sense. Will black take now on h4? Yes, it's happening actually, and we are in for a heavy piece endgame where black is up a pawn. Good thing for white is that those are doubled pawns on g6 and g7, so it's less easy to create a pass pawn. But it is, of course, Abdusattorov who will be trying to win this. And now White has offered a second pawn. This gets a question mark because you probably don't want to be down 2 pawns. Is it something that he missed, David?
I think he's playing for tricks here. I think he was reluctant to go passive, and he believes he can hold a rook endgame. He's probably right, because, like you said, the double G-pawns don't mean much in a rook endgame. But this is the key variation. We'll quickly put it on the board. Queen takes b4. He wants to take on e5, hitting the rook. And he's hopeful here that black is a bit poorly coordinated. We see, actually, in the live board, queen takes b4 wasn't played, so Nodirbek was scared here. I think his trick is that queen takes a5. Black is now up 2 pawns, but this move, queen h2 check, and the black king gets mated. So I think this variation scared Nodirbek away from this. It turns out, though, that after queen takes b4, he could have just covered his back rank and moved like rook to c8, and the b pawn, protected pass pawn, probably wins all endgames. So maybe Nodirbek, making a judgment call there, was a bit reluctant to risk anything. But okay, maybe a missed opportunity. And now g3, he really wants the h-file, Anna.
He does. I like this approach, and now it makes sense why he didn't go for it. I did not see that very scary attack coming after queen b4 and queen e5. The computer, of course, has no feelings or nerves and would just cold-bloodedly go for it anyway. But this makes a lot more sense when it comes to the human approach, that you see a king on an open file and you try to get your rook there with g3, king to g2, and the queen on d5 is perfectly placed for this. So in that sense, Tabatabaei has made quite the progress by chasing the black queen away from the center, from that long diagonal, getting his queen into that central location, and now he's ready to place the king on the long diagonal and get the rook to h1. Maybe the tables could be turning if black doesn't react correctly.
Exactly. Nodirbek now, he might not know it, but the eval bar says 0.0. He might have to bail out at some point and try to get the queens off, like play e4. He's pushing his g-pawn now. He wants to park his king on g6. Some risk attached to that one. I don't blame him for not calling the bluff, Anna, earlier and taking on b4, but I think he rushed that moment, and now, like you said, things getting a bit out of hand.
They are getting out of hand, and he had time to invest more in that critical moment. I think he will be regretting not having spent a little longer after that queen d5 move happened. He's still up on the clock, twice as much time as his opponent, but maybe it's now too late to invest time. And how do you untangle this situation? If you play king to g6, there's queen d6 check, picking up your rook, so it's not that simple to just hide the king there.
Yeah. I think he's going to have to meet the check with king g6. So he needs to stop your idea there of queen d6 now, or he needs to get his rook on a safe square. I think the king will be able to hide on g6 with a pawn on f6 if there's no check. So in my eyes, in my mind, like f6 or maybe a rook move, but scary. He's actually counterattacking here, Anna. He's banking on the fact that he has time to do this with the king nice and safe tucked away.
I like that move. It's good to go for a counterattack like this and force the queen trade, because white can only really defend f2 efficiently by offering a queen trade on f3, which is what Tabatabaei has done. So we are heading for a rook endgame after the trade on f3. I'm guessing it's going to happen, because what else would you play? And now black has the chance to sacrifice the g-pawn for the f2 pawn if he wanted to push g4, but goes back to c6 instead.
Yeah, I think he believed after a move like g4, everything would come off, and he really wanted to stop rook d6, rook takes a6 ideas. Very likely at some point that the whole queen side will disappear. So he's probably just trying to keep the tension as long as possible. Although I did like your idea, like this would be such a better endgame if g4 and king g2 were inserted, because then the white king is passive forever. So maybe he could have tried it. Oh, it does feel like Nodirbek's rushing. He wants to keep his time advantage. He's 3 minutes up, but he has missed some interesting opportunities, and now it feels like a bit of a waiting game.
It does feel like it, and the position is too simplified for Tabatabaei to make mistakes. I think even though he is low on the clock, it's not going to be that much of an issue, because the position is just so stable. It's an equal rook endgame. It's going to be really hard for Abdusattorov to find any chances anymore. We could go back to our bird's eye view, because the other game is still on as well. These are 2 semifinals in the knockout stage here for the 1 qualification spot at the Freestyle World Championship for next month. And what we are witnessing are the semifinals this is the first game in each, so the players will then have a second game with colors reversed. 2 endgames, one being a rook endgame and the other a knight endgame. Any chances in the knight endgame for either Oparin or Pranav, David?
Oh, I would be shocked if either side won this. It does feel very drawish, but I do see Pranav a bit lower on time. I don't know if Oparin can keep the tension long enough. I think Pranav's done a good thing. He's put his pawn on f5. He's put a knight on f6. He's saying, okay, if I want now, I will be able to simplify. I could even block it up if Oparin allows. Therefore, okay, g3 is played. And I just don't really see a plan. I think if either side pushes their pawns too far forward, they just become weak, so that's too risky. So maybe they just maintain the balance, the status quo, like move back and forward with their knights. I'm predicting draw. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think it's likely a draw, unless Pranav will have an issue with his connection, because I do see his camera struggling a little bit, but hopefully his connection is stable enough, at least when it comes to the chessboard, and he'll be able to continue playing the knight endgame. There's a trade on e4, and the pawn on g3 is being targeted. This could lead to a repetition of moves if the knights go now back and forth.
Here we go. Second time we've seen this position. Knight e3 now would be a draw on the spot. And Oparin's body language says he believes it's a draw. No real way to play on. And there we go. First result of these knockout stages.
First result, and I think it's good news for Pranav because of what we mentioned about the starting position, where Black actually had no problems in either of the semifinal games, and now they will be able to play the same starting position with colors reversed. We still, of course, have this rook endgame between Tabatabaei and Abdusattorov before the next game kicks in. So let's focus on what has changed, and is there any way either of the players can press or try to do something in this rook endgame?
Yeah, he's trying Nodirbek, but I mean, firstly, he's allowing rook to g7, which seems to win a pawn back. I think, Anna, he's trying to wait for the moment that the white rook gets off the 7th rank, and then he's going to sprint with his king maybe forward, or he's going to go with his rook at some point, but he's just daring Tabatabaei to take this pawn, and he's just going to go, okay, I'm running. Good luck calculating the race with under 2 minutes left. Really interesting bluff here. Maybe white shouldn't touch anything at all. Maybe white should just keep the tension, keep the rook on, for example, a7, g7, just keep yo-yoing back and forward. A7, f7, g7 seem to be safe squares, and the black king will never get out. If the black rook ever moves, then the a pawn dropping, I think, would lead to a draw as well. But he does take. That's a bit risky.
I liked your suggestion. I thought it was easier to just keep the rook on the 7th rank, but it's also understandable that he just wants to equalize the material. Now it's an even position, but the black king has improved. And it's important in endgames, of course, that your king is active. The black king is better positioned than the white king. Not that big of a difference, though, because the white rook is still really active, putting pressure on the a6 pawn, not letting the black rook get activated, which is key to make that situation where you are not allowing rook to c4, grabbing the b pawn.
Yeah, actually, you're like spot on there, and Tabatabaei is spot on. He realized that if the black king, just to show it, if the black king had made that sprint forward, then it's just slightly too slow. There is a check here, rook to d7 check. If black tries to block, then no rook exchange. White will just block the c-file, cutting things off, and we could see a repetition of moves. If the black king does dare to step forward, white does land a check first, and if anything, it's going to be a bit risky for black. The e4 pawn would drop, and now this is probably a race that black doesn't want, pawn down. So he's holding the door just with his rook alone. The white king is a bystander. But here we go, a couple of moves. And yeah, it looks like no way forward for Nodirbek. This is going to be a draw.
And that's a very solid start, unless something miraculous happens. I guess we cannot outrule mouse slips. We cannot outrule mistakes due to the time pressure. Tabatabaei is lower on time, but it looks like he's got the right defense, and it's happening what you mentioned, that as soon as the king tries to make it to c4, the rook gives a check, threatening a rook d4 check if the king goes to c4. So black will likely block or go back with the king.
Mm-hmm. It is Nodirbek style. I was going to say, what are the chances of him going to this line?
He's going for it. Okay, he is going in, sacrificing now a second pawn. Only move is rook e6, but it's not like a very difficult move to find. It attacks 2 of black's pawns.
Wow, this is brave from Nodirbek, but it's cool that he waited a move. He waited for king to g2 because the g4 pawn was hanging. So now he's
Yeah.
not going to be down material. And Anna, maybe the black b pawn is the fastest in this race.
And he's so ambitious. You can see the determination. He sips a bit of water, focuses back in, logged in on this rook endgame that we already thought was not much to play for. The players could get ready for the next game. But no. Nodirbek got to sit there and said, there's always a chance. He has played a lot of games with Magnus Carlsen, which probably helps when it comes to try to squeeze water out of stone. He's doing it. He's trying it at least.
Yeah, and I love this approach, this new generation of fantastic players who just push to the maximum. In the past, everyone would have just bailed out with a draw, but now they know that the margins are so small. In order to stand out from the pack, they need to take risks, and they might backfire. Like you said, he's played Magnus. He lost a couple of endgames at the World Blitz. Those might backfire, but more often than not, if you take the risks, if you believe in yourself and calculate well, then you will get some chances. So he's going to move his rook out the way, and the b4 pawn's going to run. This is not going to be easy to Tabatabaei to handle this with 1 minute left.
Not easy at all. And this is exactly what Nodirbek needed to create so that his time advantage will make also a bigger impact in a position where you need to be really precise with the defense, as you are saying, David, and showing on the board with the arrows that black's play is really straightforward. You just want to push them and promote your pass pawn. But what can white do about it? You need to start pushing your own pawn as well, the a pawn, to create counter chances.
And yeah, the clash of two stubborn players who want to win. I fully agree with that feature stat. Oh, what to do next? I think the idea at some point is to force the black rook away and then to give some checks from behind. At some point, the black king might have to run in front of its own pawn, losing a bit of time. And if white can give up his rook for the b pawn and start maybe moving his king out the way and creating his own pass pawn, then there might be chances. But Anna, this is so difficult. Computer always says 0.0, but one slip and this is going to spiral out of control for one side. I think Tabatabaei maybe is the one who needs to be more accurate.
He certainly needs to be very accurate, and he only has 30 seconds left. I think this is a great practical chance for Nodirbek, and he's the one who created it. He went for it. He's taking a risk, but it could pay off, as you said, because now it is not that simple for white to how to manage this situation, how to handle it. He does find the right approach so far. This is what he had to do, push the a pawn, but now pushing e4 also means he's going for a second pass pawn, and his king might be able to get closer.
Yeah, I'm going to predict this game ends with king versus king. I just have a feeling at some point white's going to give up the rook for the b pawn. He's going to delay it as long as possible. But that latter point you mentioned, Anna, king g4, king takes g5, and then running with the f pawn, maybe even just leaving the e pawn for black to take. And I think he's going to be quick enough because the black king is going to be so far away. We'll see though. Nodirbek trying to find any final chances. He's down to around 1 minute 20 now. We can see loads of checks to drive the black king as far away as possible.
And it does get the exclamation mark. It's the right way to handle the position. I think we will see what you predicted, David. The black king will need to hide from the checks, and then white will go back to the position where it was earlier with the rook behind, preventing promotion. You will end up giving up the rook at some point for the b pawn, but with king g4, king takes g5, you should have enough. And the black king is too far to stop the white pawns. Together with the black rook, it should be heading toward a draw, but it is still that tense situation where Tabatabaei is now on 27 seconds. He does find king to g4, ready to give up his rook for the b pawn.
Yeah, that was the key idea. His e4 was really inspired, just breaking the barrier of the fourth rank. You need active king in endgames, and Tabatabaei is going to hold this now. I just don't think Nodirbek has enough time to grab everything with his rook. He shook his head there very subtly, and he's actually now lower than his opponent on time, Nodirbek. Probably he should be playing it safe now, maybe taking this pawn at some point, going back with his rook. He can make a new queen here. There we go. And we'll see this whole endgame play out. But be careful. There's still a lot of pawns on the board, Nodirbek. Don't push it too far. King takes pawn.
He does take on g5, and I think he will start pushing now. The e pawn or the f pawn? I guess you can try both. E5 seems like a very logical one, but f4, f5 was possible too. The black king is trying to catch the pawns, but there's 3 that you need to keep an eye on. And after e6, rook takes a6, the white king can continue supporting the pawn with king to f6. Or king f5 as well, and then push.
Yeah, king f5 is cool because you don't kind of get pinned. There we go. And you don't allow the black king nearer shouldering. And there we go. Nodirbek is bailing out. We will see king versus king and another hard-fought draw, Anna. The players can't be separated.
Wow, what a start. This knockout stage is so tense. There's just marginal differences in the games. Everything's felt like it's near perfect chess from start to finish, very few mistakes. And we will now see the same position with colors reversed, which I think is awesome. Oh, actually, no, sorry, I'm completely wrong. David, I misunderstood. There's a new position for every game. It doesn't matter. So this is not an advantage that they already played with the black pieces. Oh gosh, this my mind is like exploding with this information. That's crazy.
It's literally a lottery. Like they could get a really great position now with the white pieces, or they could get one that's just totally equal. They're going to be praying. There are a handful, I would say half a dozen positions out of the 959 where white has a big advantage from move 1. So they're going to be hoping now Nodirbek and Pranav that they get a bit lucky. But Anna, I guess it does remove that small advantage as you mentioned. Starting with black, if it was the same position, you get a bit more knowledge. This time,
this whole time I was thinking they are practicing this position and then they got displayed again. There's no such thing. Every game is a different position. That, I guess, means that whether you start with white or black, the match doesn't matter since you do get a new position with every game. And the players will have, again, after the position reveal, they will have 3 minutes to study the position. Not much time, but it's better than nothing. We will show the position as soon as it's revealed and analyze what they will have on their hands. I think I'm going to predict, David, that this time we will not have minor pieces versus heavy pieces on one flank versus the other. It cannot happen again, right? It cannot be.
Surely not. The odds are tiny. There's only a handful of those positions out there, and we seem to have found all of them. What do you think? Will we see queens in the corner? That was another theme of yesterday.
Queens in the corner could be. I think that's more likely. Position 876. What does that say to you, David? Do you know all of them by heart? I'm expecting yes.
I actually studied this one last night. I have tons of notes on them. I think e4 is the best move for white, and black should be playing c6 in return. No, I'm joking.
Wow.
But, Anna,
let's take a look.
We nearly have all the minor pieces on one side, and we do have a cornered queen. We got it all.
So both. We almost got both. I did not want to see the minor pieces on all the same flank, but at least the bishop is joining the queen on the left side.
Yeah, the queen is ready to hit some undefended pawns as well. G7 is not protected.
Anna, in could be a good
game
start.
One of today, maybe.
Yeah, sorry. I'm so excited. I just keep getting I keep getting distracted and interrupting you. David, please go. Take it away.
Don't worry. I'm excited too. Game one of the day, we got position 890. Now we got 876. So all these kind of high 800 positions seem to be about the minor pieces in the corner. But I do think you're 100% right. It's about the other side here. Not sure where the king's going to go either because it's so central.
Yeah, that's a good point. That I didn't even look at the king. I was just still analyzing how the minor pieces are in the queen, and I want to push the b pawn. But what will happen with the king is another big question. Always such a big question. Do you castle, and where do you castle? Rook on each side of the king. It means that you can castle queenside on move 1. You can literally start by castling if you wanted to. Probably the players will not do it because that's quite a committal move and you can do it at any point. So why reveal your cards? Casting kingside, though, that's going to take a bit more of a shuffling. Develop the knight and put the bishop somewhere, but where? F2 could be safe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
what
F3
would you say?
will need to be. Either F3 or E4 will need to happen at some point to block the black queen. So I think kingside. if I had to gamble, Anna. I don't know. It's always tough. Like Magnus, for example, he's fantastic at freestyle. He never castles until the last moment to keep his opponent guessing. So maybe we'll see that. But I could imagine kingside castles. Just get it to safety. There's no protection on the queen side. No knights around.
That's true, that both knights are on the king side, although it's really funky to have the corner knight as a defensive piece. So imagine like you push the pawn, move the bishop out, develop the f1 knight, then you castle, and one of your main defenders, other than the bishop, is this knight in the corner, not doing much. G3, so you need to move the knight between the f1 knight and an h1 knight. There's a bit of a clash. They're both controlling the same squares. Maybe the f1 knight needs to go toward the center to leave the g3 square for the corner knight.
Yeah, actually, I don't know why I was drawing the arrow the other way earlier. You're 100% right. Like, this is definitely the direction the knight should go to. That makes me think that maybe f3 and e4, it's always nice to put knights behind pawns, a pawn on the 4th rank, a knight on the 3rd rank. So maybe e4 at some point, knight e3. I quite like the idea of going for the loose pawn, though. Like, the more I look at it, it's not going to be easy to kind of deter any threats on that pawn. That might force black to make some weird pawn moves just to stop any immediate threats.
That's true. That could be the case. And I'm also really curious to see, by the way, if we will see similar approaches. F3 is on the board by Nodirbek as the first move. You called it, David.
Yeah, it wasn't the best according to the computer, but f3, f6. Ben Feingold is watching somewhere, just cutting so loudly. Okay. The two boards going their own ways.
C4. Yeah, they are, because Pranav decides the central pawn push is better. It's what we know from traditional chess, push your e-pawn or d-pawn.
I always find it funny, Anna, when a side pushes a pawn in front of their king that isn't defended. I know it's fine in normal chess, like e4, but it just feels weird in freestyle, like the Pranav board, the blue board there, like d4.
Yeah.
If that pawn is hit, it just feels awkward. I guess it can be defended e3, c3, but it wouldn't have come to my mind d4. It also blocks the queens in the corner.
I don't like that about it. I don't like that it blocks that long diagonal. I find the board on the left side more harmonious for the starting position, but I think it's also personal preferences, of course. There's nothing wrong objectively with Pranav's position. In fact, the computer really likes it after d4, d5. It shows a slight advantage for Pranav as early as on move 1 or after move 1. Why is it claiming? Was it a mistake to mirror the move and push the pawn? Maybe it's what you said, David, that both pawns are loose, but white is the one that makes the call on when to attack it. So you have a slight edge with these hanging pawns.
Yeah, it's funny because if we just, I mean, this is only move 2, but I'm going to do an action replay, Anna. After d4, at the bar, we see it drop, and apparently black is better. Black hasn't even moved.
Whoa, Whoa. You can be better without moving. That's amazing.
And I just want to show it because it's rare to see an early checkmate. But for example, c5 is apparently one of the best moves according to the computer. f6 is okay as well. But this is what I meant about an early pawn in front of your king being pushed. Because now, for example, if a capture happens, black doesn't need to take it back immediately. But you have to be a bit careful here with white. If you play a move like knight fg3, whoops, you get checkmated on move 3. 3 move checkmate.
Pretty.
I just had to
and
show
this is
it,
not the fool's mate. It's not as short as the fool's mate, but almost. This is so rare to see checkmate in 3. And it's all thanks to the king in the middle exposed and all the white pieces blocking the escape.
Yeah, this is close to the epaulette checkmate, but not quite. Normally that's with the queen, but the king is caught between its 2 rooks. This would have been fun, but I think c5 would have been a really strong move. And of course, white would not have blundered it. But
missed opportunity by Oparin not going for checkmate in 3. Yes, of course, you don't have to allow the mate, but c5 was still, of course, a really strong move and would have actually given some questions about this starting move of Pranav. It would have really created a bigger argument about whether it was the right choice. Now, both players have done the same, and that is in favor of white. I'm still so puzzled. I think this gotta be the bias that all the things we'll know from traditional chess. and wanting to push the central pawns always, because it's so much in our way, it's so much in our veins, in our just like, you know that it's a good move, but not in freestyle chess. It's really hard to remove everything you know about traditional chess and think outside the box.
Exactly. I know so many players of all levels, like from club player, tournament player to grandmaster, who say, okay, I'm an E4 player or I'm a D4 player. In freestyle, it's like, you can't really say that because D4 move one might just be, you might just be worse with white. So it is funny and interesting, that kind of mutual kind of trust. D4, D5, those are probably the safest moves, and the game goes on. But there's a lot beneath the surface, and I think the advantage of the first move, very, very important here. Like you said, Anna, E4 may be coming now. Knight F5 was on the cards, so that's just been stopped. Although Knight H5 at some point later does look a bit scary. And yeah, it looks like great opening. 2 question mark moves already for Oparin.
No.
Pranav should be happy.
And those are moves that, again, in traditional chess are very standard, to push your central pawn, the D pawn, and then support it with your E pawn, but not in freestyle chess. You don't rely on the same moves. Of course, the grandmasters playing here know it, but it still felt like the right approach to them. Very different approach on the other board, by the way, if we go back to the bird's eye view, because there's so much that has happened in the game of Abdusattorov against Tabatabaei. In favor of Nodirbek, it looks like he has made some progress.
Yeah, I see a very strong knight on F5, and will that Black King survive? That's the big question. Anna, I already see tactics in the air. Like the other knight might come to H5 at some point, hammer down some pressure on G7. At the right moment, the white B pawn might step forward, and the queen will be unleashed on the diagonal. I don't like allowing knights in my territory in general in chess, but especially in freestyle chess, a knight on F5. It's going to be dangerous long term. So Tabatabaei, he's got everything covered, but how's he going to evict that piece? How is he going to trade it off or kick it back? It's going to be difficult.
Really difficult, because he does have his knights in the way of both pawns on E6 and G6. There's not really much time to maneuver your pieces away. So maybe he will have to go for trading his bishop for the G3 knight before it's too late, before it lands on H5. But that's also a decision that's really hard to make. You give up the control of the dark squares. But I'm so scared of this knight on F5, and if you double down with the knight jumping to H5 as well, I think this is good. This is becoming really difficult to play from Black's perspective. He's playing knight to C7. That cannot be. That cannot be. You don't have time for this, David. This cannot be.
That is weird. It's an ugly move, as your instincts showed there, Anna. Like, he's blocking his own rook, his bishop. Like, wow, he's even getting up. He's that confident. I mean, he wants to put his knight back on E8 to defend G7, especially if knight H5 happens. He wants to go knight E8 and then E6 to kick back the knight. It's so slow, though. There must be some tactics.
It feels really slow. Maybe he is preventing, as you have said, the main idea of white, because knight e8 will guard g7 and then you chase the f5 knight away. So perhaps knight h5 is no longer that strong unless there's some miraculous sacrifice. But surely there's other options other than knight h5, because it's going to take so long for Black to... You have to play knight e8 before pushing e6, because if you push e6 without the knight going back to the back rank, then d6 is a huge weakness in Black's camp. So Black will have to move the knight again and then chase the knight away. You have 2 more moves as white to make something out of this.
Yeah, you make a move now, Black plays knight e8, then boom, you have to create a threat. So what could that be? I kind of want to get the queen involved, but b3, does that help? He goes h4. That's more like it, Anna. When in doubt, play h4.
Okay, now that looks like the power move you need against something like this long and slow knight maneuver. So you are threatening to push further, chase the g6 knight away, and then that pawn could perhaps also land on h6 to weaken the king. But the problem is what you're showing, David, that once the knight goes away from g6, the e7 pawn is hanging. So Black has to prevent pawn to h5, but you can't really prevent it. All you can do is try to guard the e7 pawn with yet another piece, because you need to be ready for h5. Problem with h5 too is that then your knight has no squares, so rook e8 makes sense. You're trying to guard the pawn on e7 and also create a space for the knight to go back to. Knight h8 would have been so sad.
Oh, something's coming, Anna. I feel it. Like, this is such quick play, such energetic play from Nodirbek. He's unleashed the queen with gain of tempo. I just want to ask what happens if pawn takes pawn. That is a sacrifice. If c takes b4, what does he have in mind? Is it
I don't think he has good
h6?
intentions. I think he's gonna blow up the king side with h6. I think that's it, David.
Oh, and if g6, which normally is the ideal reaction, then at the very minimum, white can play knight takes pawn, check, boom, and threatening mate, probably just picking up the rook next move. Black can hold on with a knight move, but yeah, that's a material advantage and an ongoing attack. It's almost game over.
Beautiful. That would be a huge attack created by just this simple idea of pushing the pawn all the way to h6. And the dark squared bishop of black is on the other side of the board, still on the bench, not even able to move to do anything about this mating attack.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's been forgotten on the bench. It hasn't been called up to this game at all. The black queen.
No, both the bishop and the queen. And those are the pieces that can do something on the dark squares to face this, to kind of create a way to parry these threats, offer a queen trade, block the diagonal, but they are just stuck in the corner. You said this, David, yesterday. You cannot have this situation where the queen is undeveloped. You need to activate the queen early. And now both the queen and the bishop are stuck for black, and that makes the position lost, completely lost.
Exactly. That's rule number one I've discovered of freestyle chess. Like, every time I watch Magnus, he'll happily bring his queen out on move 2. Like, in regular chess, they say, don't bring the queen out too early, you lose time. But often, if a queen's in the corner, it's better to bring her out and then lose a tempo or two, at least to get her onto a central square, because at least she'll play a role in the game later. Tabatabaei, he's forgotten that rule. He's going to be punished. If we compare the pieces, I mean, black's got everything on the back rank, with a couple of exceptions on the 7th rank. White's pieces, I mean, the queen's basically been developed, the bishop's been developed, the 2 knights look fantastic. And, oh, I just smell the end already, Anna.
This is a devastating attack. We are only on move 10, and we are talking about a crushing attack by Nodirbek Abdusatorov. And you called it, David, that after knight c7, that there was going to be something, because it's too slow. If we just take a quick moment for an action replay on how this happened, black was okay-ish. It wasn't a comfortable position. The knights are awkward, and white was threatening to jump to h5 as well. So certainly there was pressure, but it wasn't about to collapse. The position was still holding on. Maybe black had to trade the bishop for the g3 knight, as unpleasant as it is, but just to make sure that your king is safer. The e6 knight is guarding g7, so there wouldn't have been anything as concrete as what happened after knight c7. Too slow. It was an idea that could have worked if the position is more solid, but in such a critical, sharp position, you cannot allow yourself 2 to 3 moves for a slow maneuver. Now the rook is on the square where you wanted to place the knight, so you can't even set up what you wanted. You cannot chase the knight away with e6, ever.
Yeah, I mean, at the very minimum, there's knight d6 there. Maybe there's even a knockout blow with some sacrifices around the black king. I think I know, Anna, if we just go back one last time, why he played knight c7. He was reluctant to give up the bishops, although in the current position, the bishop on b8 is so bad that I think you're 100% right. Like, it's so bad that you might as well just get it off the board, trade off. But the reason he didn't play b6, for example, is because his queen gets trapped. That's a cool tactic. He can't even get his queen out. He's already left it too long. I mean, I think process of elimination, he kind of ran out of ideas. He's like, wait, my knights are just clumsy, blocking my pawns. My rooks can't really be improved. He was like, okay, I might as well retreat. But that was the big mistake, maybe the only mistake in the game, but enough to land him in the hot water that he finds himself in. B4 by Nodirbek. He played it instantly, like 1 second for B4. That is a powerful move.
He is, and you called it, David, that he's one of the players. Already yesterday we called him one of the main favorites, and today you also named Nodirbek as the most likely to win it all and qualify to the Freestyle World Championship. Of course, this is still not over. Tabatabaei is trying, and maybe he has found some chances while we were talking about the alternatives, because he went back to e6 with the knight. Not easy to admit that you made a mistake and you have to go back to where it was, lose 2 tempi. He allowed white to take on c5 and now trades the knight on g3.
Yeah, that is clever. Tabatabaei, he's a super strong grandmaster, of course, and I think it's the hardest thing in the world, Anna, right, to admit that you've made a mistake and just go back. And he realized, okay, he blundered with knight c7. Horrible idea, but never too late to admit that mistake. He went back to e6, and then he played bishop takes g3, which he could have done, 5 moves ago. So at least he's kind of swallowed his pride. He's like, okay, I need to get my bishop off the board. It was just so bad. Game goes on. And I think that's very impressive, just kind of understanding there that, he knew that things had gone wrong and desperate times call for desperate measures, but he at least found the right way forward. And he survived. No immediate knockout now.
Yeah, he did survive, although it looks like the position was still so difficult to play that instead of capturing on c5, which he did, the computer said it was more important to take the h5 pawn, so that you're not allowing any h6 pushes, because if you do get rid of that pawn, it opens up the h5, but at least you will have the g6 square available for your bishop, for your knight, so it gets more solid and more defendable, the king's side, and the c5 pawn would have still been hanging. He missed this opportunity. It was still, of course, better for white, the position, and the attack goes on, but this now, after d4, is looking again pretty scary. You need to retreat with the rook or keep it on the 5th rank, but I think no matter what, h6 is likely a follow-up.
Exactly, and that's why I am a bit surprised he didn't take on h5. I was just praising him, and then I thought, oh, whoops, maybe he should have prevented this idea. h6 is always just such a bone in the throat. Like, it's just so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Alpha 0, and ever since it's been proven, pawn on h6, there's always so many mating nets, Anna.
There are, and the idea that you showed earlier, David, h6 to provoke the g pawn to be pushed. So you either take on h6 or you push it. But let's say h6, g6, trying to chase the knight away. And the engine says that this position is so advantageous for white that you can again go for the knight sacrifice on e7, even though the diagonal of the queen is not open, because after the rook takes it, then you push your pawn, attack the black knight, and you are threatening queen takes f6. Everything is collapsing.
Oh, that is so strong, Anna. Checkmate incoming. Black's king, it's got so many pieces around it, but none of them really help to cover the dark squares. The queen and the h-pawn alone will help. And okay, d4, we're in this position currently after rook a5. h6 has just been played.
Oof.
And what do you think? He's going for this, surely. He's found it, right?
He is. If you push h6, you know that you want to give up your knight because you're not going to retreat after g6, will you? The only square for the knight would be on the edge of the board. I think this is happening. This is it. He has given up the knight. Knight sacrifice another pawn push. Nodirbek Tabatabaei with a crushing attack. This is only move 16 and he's winning.
Wow. I think the position is actually with the pawns on h6 and g6, so it's even stronger. He's going to grab the f6 pawn. I'll just put that on the board. This is the position by transposition. And wow. What a tactic. He hasn't moved any of these 5 pieces, Anna, but his position is still winning.
He didn't need to. The queen and the bishop are attacking from their original location. He still has over 10 minutes, by the way. He has found this crushing idea also at such an ease and with not much time spent. So cool and just so impressive.
So impressive. Nodirbek is on the brink of making it through to the final. He's going to make it one step closer to the World Championship of Freestyle, and he's done it so powerfully, so energetically. He's still got 10 minutes left on his clock. Yeah,
it's really incredible how he has played really fast the first game too, but that was a lot more solid. And in this one, he just trusts his calculation, his intuition, his instincts about the dynamics of this position so well. He doesn't even second guess. He doesn't hesitate. He goes for it. And he has sacrificed this knight on e7 to now push d5. The black knight is hanging, and if you move the knight, the pawn on f6 will be captured, threatening checkmate in one on g7 and threatening the rook as well. I don't think black has a way out of this. How do you minimize the damage, David? What can black do to keep the game going?
Oh, um, oof, above my pay grade. I think I would be tempted to just resign and applaud my opponents. I think with 3 minutes left,
Fair.
Tabatabaei, you won't find it. Is
Since
that
this
too
is a
harsh, Anna?
knockout, no, and Tabatabaei will be knocked out. That is, he'll be playing for the third place after if he loses. So he's trying because there's everything on the line. He wants to qualify too. He plays Queen D8, guards the rook. Abdusattorov doesn't even care about the hanging knight. He just captures on f6, and if the knight goes away, it's checkmate in 1 on g7. Rook e8 to offer a queen trade makes perfect sense. Trading your queens when your king is in trouble is one of the best ways to defend your king.
Mm-hmm. And therefore the answer is no. Nodirbek, of course, goes back with his queen. And okay, the rook on a5 isn't hanging, but it's a reminder that the black queen can't really move. The knight can't move. It's almost zugzwang, like the bishop can't move, the knight can't move, the queen can't move.
Oh,
like what can you even
cannot
play
move
here?
a single piece. There's so many pieces on the board, and yet black can barely move any of them. All three minor pieces are completely blocked for one reason or the other.
White can just like start playing like castles and then like e4, f4, f5, just start like slow play this attack.
Do you know what's one of the best moves here, David, according to the engine? Taking the knight, of course, is a good move, but the computer really wanted to just play king to e2.
What? King e2?
It's like black cannot do anything, so why not improve your king?
Wow. Bong cloud delayed. Like that would have been the best bong cloud in the world. Like already winning position, and then you play
can
king
we
e2.
show it instead of taking the knight? Just cool and casual, move your king out of harm's way forever and ever. Nothing can be done. Black cannot make any progress or improve the situation.
Yeah, and just slowly kind of moseying on over to f2. I guess he wouldn't want to meet a move like queen g5 here, hitting the bishop, hitting the pawn, but probably something along the lines of rook to h1 will soon end this game. Oh, rook h1. Yeah, this is just too much pressure. Wow, Anna, this is actually a queen trap. So king e2 is based on a really, really nice tactic, but okay, he found something better, and well, just as good, I'll say. Nothing better than a bong cloud, but wow, this was a check. And he's played king e2 anyway. Wow, we made it happen.
I mean, yeah, it's not the same move order, but I will take it, whatever. It's still pretty strong. We'll forgive Nodirbek for not seeing it first to play king e2.
Okay, and he's actually gone for this idea. A moment ago, bishop g3, the bishop was untouchable because queen g7 checkmate was on the card, so the black queen had to take on h6. And okay, what's the material count? He's a pawn up. All of that just for one pawn and the bishop pair, Anna. No checkmate, but still winning.
At least it's not a checkmate, as you said. So Tabatabaei down a pawn, facing the pair of bishops, and facing a huge time disadvantage as well, by the way, to add to the list of problems. But at least he hasn't gotten checkmated, which was the main issue with his position. So he's still in the game. He's still trying. If we go back to the bird's eye view, by the way, we can also just quickly observe how the other game is taking also quite a shape when it comes to white taking over on both boards in the semifinals now. Pranav with the advantage against Oparin.
Yeah, maybe we jump in there. Since the Nodirbek game is likely to go on a while now, kind of instant disaster has been averted by Tabatabaei. But here, it is level material, and I think white's just better long-term because of the pawn center and the kind of bishop pair to support. But it's always tricky with knights. I wouldn't relax too early if I were Pranav. He probably still needs to find some good moves to kind of go for that transition and turn his advantage into something a bit more tangible.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be any direct, concrete line, but more of a long-term advantage, as you said. This is also a pair of bishops fighting against, here, a pair of knights. In the other game, we have a pair of bishops against a knight and bishop. So both games with advantage for the bishops because they are quite open positions, and the bishops will enjoy those open diagonals, of course. The further the position opens up, the better. When it comes to what can Oparin do, What do you think would be a good approach here for Black to stay solid, or can he create something that would be at least more challenging for White to deal with?
Yeah, it's tough here because the obvious candidate move is to play g4 to try and well, firstly create a threat. The white bishop is not too happy. I'm not sure it can move, but if we jump in and show it g4, this would allow some tactics, I believe. I'm not sure whether white plays e5 immediately. One idea I saw was to even give up the bishop or bishop g3 first, and then you can pin this knight. And yeah, this looks like it's just going to end up with an extra pawn for white. No way to save that piece. And yeah, once that bishop lands on the f4 square as well, that's a really crunching diagonal. So g4 loses too much protection of the black knight in f4. He's actually gone back with his queen. I was going to say, when in doubt, king b8 is always a good idea if you castle queenside, but queen c7, and white's chasing down that knight anyway, wants to take and damage the structure and then capture on h5.
Yeah, and that's a very concrete threat, so it's understandable that Oparin is pushing h4 to not lose the pawn. And at the same time, the evaluation bar is jumping further ahead in favor of Pranav. Was this a mistake then, h4? It looks so natural.
Yeah, I think everyone would play h4 in that position to save the pawn, to kind of scare the opponent away from playing g3, although it's still a bit tempting in some positions. The big question, Anna, is whether to take or not to take. That damages the black structure, but I don't know, I'm so attached to my bishop pair. It's not my style, maybe, but is it Pranav's style?
Good question. Will he take it, or is he looking at any alternatives? And what are the alternatives?
Yeah, white could just stabilize. I was going to say maybe pawn to h3 even, just to stop any further advances, but queen c2. At some point, he wants to put his bishop on g4. That, I guess, is the idea. Queen c2 protects e4. He just wants to totally dominate the light squares next. Makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. He's the only one with bishops on the board, and the light squares, there's a lot of weaknesses in Black's camp on the light squares. So bishop g4 could be next. Again, this is nothing concrete. There's no immediate danger, but slowly but surely improving your pieces step by step is always a good way to make progress in the position.
Exactly. And king to b8, always necessary when castling on the long side. At some point, white might start to attack by throwing the b and a pawns forward, but first bishop g4. Oh no, that's always the way, Anna.
It's a mistake. Oh, why is it a mistake? There must be something concrete, because by principle, this move makes perfect sense. So what's the drawback? Is this missing something?
It's the commentator's curse. Every time I make a slow suggestion, like a positional move, it's like, nope, should have been more dynamic. but
knight b6 is a mistake too. It looks like it was really, really difficult to find whatever the computer was talking about with these question marks.
Yeah, let's explain why. This is going to be me cheating and checking the engine. Okay, Black has a couple of ideas, but they're all based around this move c5. H3 first is the other idea, when white has to break the structure because now g3. This is one reason the bishop maybe was better on f3. Knight g2 would be allowed. Ooh, so g takes h3 and white structure a bit more loose. But let's say Black holds off c5 instead of knight to b6. Fights for squares, I guess, Anna. And if white takes a free pawn, for example, then the black knight gets access into a beautiful outpost. And suddenly bishop is hit, knight's coming in. And then
h3, if the bishop moves away, let's say bishop f5, h3, it's already looking very suspicious around the white king.
Yeah, suddenly the knights are beautiful, outpowering their opponents and the rival bishops.
Yeah, that's exactly what Black needs, outposts for the knights, so that you can bring them closer to the action. This would have been the perfect example on how to fight against the bishops and activate your own knights. So bishop g4, as natural as it seemed, would have given Black the chance to first tickle the pawn structure, whether with h3 or c5 or both. You want to get those pawn pushes in. Didn't happen. And now there's a blue arrow for a reason. Let's say why. Why is this such a key move?
I think the idea is to firstly prevent bishop takes f4, breaking the structure, but the same idea again, knight g6, ideas of c5 to get the e5 outpost a bit later. I think that's the one concept that for now has eluded Oparin. So knight g6 he needs to play. But Anna, maybe we can zoom out because the other game might be close to finishing now.
Looks
like a totally winning advantage.
Oh god, the evaluation bar is showing near full on white advantage. That is a decisive advantage already. It's almost as big as a rook's advantage nearly when we look at the evaluation bar. And what has happened? What is the concrete line, David? Let's catch in before it's too late. Let's catch up.
Something to do with this pawn. Like, when I saw the eval bar rise out the corner of my eye, the first move I wanted to try was queen takes d5, queen sack, and then just push the pawn in. He's actually done it.
It's happening. He's giving up the queen to then push the pawn. How cool is that?
How cool.
Wow. And then takes a sip of water. Just another day at the office.
What a boss move from Nodirbek. Everything's hanging. The bishop's threatening to take d5 with check, and then it will take a2. It's like dominoes. That collapses. The pawn is guaranteed to queen now. Oh, he desperately gives up his rook. That's a kamikaze sacrifice, but can probably just be accepted. I think the white king can hide from checks long enough to promote Anna.
I think so too. You will capture the rook and then run away with the king. What a cool queen sacrifice. I'm still just processing how that was a queen giving herself up for just a bishop. A queen for a bishop to then push your pawn. What an incredible tactical pattern. And Abdusattorov here taking a bit of time whether to capture the rook even or not. Do you think he might not? Do you think he just... Because to be fair, maybe he just wants to move the king to the corner. No more checks. He takes the rook. And after h3, I guess you shouldn't touch that pawn because that will lead to some unnecessary checks.
Yeah, I think that's the...
And even checkmate, actually. So unnecessary. I've just realized I'm blundering. Checkmate. Can we show it?
Yeah.
How not to play?
King back.
How not to?
Oh, dear.
Gosh.
This would end badly. But any king to the dart square, like, I think you can go... Ooh, g3 feels a bit risky, but you can probably go to f2, h2, g1. Any square that the queen can't check. Oh, he does go forward.
He
also
says
good.
king d3 is also just fine. He is so confident even when it looks scary.
Oh, and Tabatabaei is at 5 seconds. There's only a 3-second increment after every move.
Oh,
he's lost anyway. But, oh, Anna, this is over.
This has been an incredible attack by Abdusattorov, who gave up his queen for a bishop to reach this position. And now after the capture on f4, the king has no more checks. He just stepped to the left. Very cool move and wins on time, but honestly, the position was already completely winning too. Can we do a quick action replay on those last couple of moves and the queen sacrifice, David? Because this is it. Now, Nodirbek Abdusattorov is the first player to qualify to the finals, and his opponent will be either Pranav or Oparin, fighting for that qualification spot for the Freestyle World Chess Championship.
Exactly. A quick action replay of the closing moments. This was the position. The dilemma for white is that Nodirbek wants to push his pawn forward. This would also have been good, but that would have allowed the black bishop to capture the white bishop and cover the promotion square. And instead, queen sacrifice alert. He gave up his queen. Beautiful move just to push his pawn forward. A new queen guaranteed to appear next move. The rook hit as well. And here he desperately tried to at least get some checks. I mean, Tabatabaei, he had no time on his clock, however. Rook takes g2, bravely met by advancing with the king. A rook check, the king could have sloped into the corner. The bishop defends the pawn, so there's no more checks. Instead, Tabatabaei tried to check with his pawn, and the king continued to march. This is so brave, so strong, and he finally found shelter here from this check by throwing his pawn forward. It was captured, and now hiding on a light square. A new queen about to be born. White would have been a rook and a bishop up. I mean, Tabatabaei let his time run out. Nodirbek with the game of the play-ins so far.
Incredible play by Nodirbek, who is now in the finals waiting for his opponent. He is now one match away from qualifying to the Freestyle World Chess Championship taking place next month in Weissenhaus. And if we go back to the other semifinal match to figure out who his opponent will be, will we have an answer? I don't even know what happened there because this was just a fire on board. We had to focus on Nodirbek's brilliant attack, but Pranav had an advantage before we left it. And now, David, I'm not sure he still does. Maybe the tables have turned.
Yeah, we'll jump over to that other game, and that's more positional. Ooh, tables have definitely turned. It's all about the squares here, Anna. White has the protected pass pawn on d5, but black has the beautiful outpost for the queen, the dominant queen. Level material, white's king probably more open. I think you're right. We've seen a turnaround. And I think Pranav has to go into all-out defensive mode before it's too late. Just like curl up, like at some point gets the queens off. Or I still think probably it's not easy, especially with both sides under 30 seconds. But momentum on Oparin's side.
Definitely the momentum is on Oparin's side, and anything can happen in the time scramble. There's only a 3-second increment per move, so it literally is a 3 possible result position based on the position on the board and based on the clock situation as well. C4 now is a mistake according to the computer. Not a terrible mistake, but the blue arrow is saying White's only way to do something about this slight advantage is to trade queens, and so he does. Pranav finds it. He takes the chance that he has been given.
Yeah, just in time before Black would have played rook to d3 and there would have been some pressure on g3. Black's queen was the dominant force in the position, so getting it off is a lifesaver. And Anna, I wonder whether there's ideas of the king going the whole way around now. Active kings in endgames. Ooh.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's actually happening. I couldn't even finish my sentence because it's already on the board. The king marching all the way to g6 to target the f6 pawn. How cool is that? But Black is trying to create a passport on the queen side in the meantime. Who is faster?
It's White. White's getting the pawns. The pawns of Black's can meanwhile easily be stopped by the white rook, the guardian there. And, oh, this is desperation. Oparin, I think he's just gone all in. He's pushed his cards into the center. He's saying, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to try and keep some time on the clock, but White can at some point play rook c2. White can just take this pawn on f6. It's a winning advantage. He's going to be at least a pawn or two up when the dust settles.
Oof. Winning advantage it is. In rook e3 was one of the best moves. Keep the rook on the board to now give a check with the rook c3, preventing the promotion and now allowing White a moment to take the pawn on g5. I was going to say he trades first. Maybe this is just as good, to be fair.
Oh, that's the key move, rook c4. I was going to say, if that pawn disappears, it might be a drawn endgame, but he holds on. Now the black c-pawn might have to give its life in order to deflect away the white rook, but White will emerge with 2 extra pawns no matter what.
Such a precise play by Pranav in this key rook endgame. And if Pranav wins, then he will also qualify to the finals to face Nodirbek Abdusattor for the 1 qualification spot for the Freestyle World Chess Championship. What a key game and crucial final moments in this matchup.
He's doing everything right. And he's just going to march his pawn forward, slow and steady. Oparin's about to run out of time. 2 seconds, 1 second. Ooh, he just can't move, Anna. He can't do anything productive. White's just going to get the king out the way and start pushing those pawns.
Yeah, it's a sad reality that White will slowly but surely make progress because Black can do nothing about it.
Yeah, easy for Pranav. He can just keep doing the same. King f7, king g8, g7. He's inching forward. When the time is right, he might start trying to bank on the d-pawn as well. This is over.
For Oparin, unfortunately, this is the sad reality. It is good with the final moves in this rook endgame. Oparin did so well in the Swiss yesterday. He was the leader of the tournament all the way until the final round. But now he is about to be taken down by Pranav. Congratulations to Pranav for making it to the finals. And look at that smile. Much deserved a relief after this really difficult game where both players had chances, David.
Yeah, Pranav doing it ultimately with a big smile on his face there. Well deserved. He should be thrilled with how he handled that endgame. There was a kind of topsy-turvy moment where he did lose a bit of control. Oparin was in the driver's seat again, but spotting that he needed to take queens off the board at the right moment was the key to victory for Pranav. And okay, it's not going to get any easier, but he's the world junior champion. He's been so good this last 12 months, and this would be the cherry on the cake. If he can qualify, if he can somehow get past Nodirbek, that would be the result of a lifetime, a chance of a lifetime to face the big dogs at the Freestyle World Championship.
Yeah, and they are just really one match away, both Pranav and Nodirbek Abdusattor, of going head-to-head in just a few minutes. The players will get a short break. We will also go for a short break. But before we do so and see this final matchup, both for the qualification spot and of course also for the 3rd place, I do want to remind everybody that there will be, before the Freestyle World Championship taking place in February, there's also another huge event on the calendar, February 7th and 8th event in London, England, and you can watch it yourself from home, or even better, in person if you want to join us at the live finals for the Speed Chess Championship. !Ticks in the chat for more information. There's all sorts of tickets available, from general admission to VIP experiences and meet and greets. You can meet all these legends in person. David will be there, I will be there, so many of us from the broadcast team that you know, and your favorite content creators, including Gotham Chess, will be there. So make sure to get your tickets. Visit the website and !Ticks in the chat. As mentioned, we will see you after this short break, and we also hope to see you in London.
Fastest, easiest way to improve your chess is now the most fun way to improve your chess. Chess.com's brand new puzzles now have loads of exciting features to make solving a joy. Earn points and race your friends across puzzle tiers from wood to bronze, all the way to legend. Rack up bonuses for streaks, for speed, for accuracy, for daily solving, difficulty, and more. And now, you can get feedback from Coach while solving puzzles. Coach lets you know what each puzzle's goal is and why a move doesn't actually work. And, as always, puzzles will be selected just for your level from our database of hundreds of thousands of high-quality, beautiful, brilliant, and instructive puzzles. So what are you waiting for? Try puzzles today on web, Android, or iOS, and have a blast leveling up your chess.
Magnus Carlsen, a special world champion. I met him at his teenage years. I remember very vividly when Simon Agdestein, at that time the #1 Norwegian player, very nice personality himself, very rounded. And I was watching a game in Benidorm, some blitzing, it was a rapid event, and I was looking, and then next to me, Agdestein comes and he just whispers in my ear that Magnus Carlsen, remember this name, a very talented boy. He's going to become a world champion. So this I remember very well. And then I had experience sitting next to him in tournaments. I'm playing in the A group, he's playing in the B group, drinking his orange juice, eating his walnuts and different things, seeing his family being extremely supportive, a very kind, nice kid, but he was not very social, I must say. And then later on, I was already kind of going to my final part of my career competitiveness when he was really raising. I mean, he became world champion in 2013, and I retired from competitive chess in 2014. But I was following, of course, in those years, how he was improving, how he was playing, how he was training. I got these informations that he was a player who was really looking and reading a lot of predecessors, old books, reading, trying to understand the essence of chess. And it was so beautiful to see while Kasparov brought all the freshness, the digital things, using the databases, using engines and all this, seeing Magnus Carlsen, the new generation who really born into this digital world, using books and reading books and trying to understand details. And I could see in his play that maybe he had some good preparation of openings, but he was more focusing on the middle game. He had endless energy playing out drawish endgames and later on winning them. I mean, he has like endless number of endgames. I'm sure everybody knows it, that he's a big grinder. And it's not that he wants to say, okay, I'm just better than anybody. Probably he thinks that way, and it's true. but he just loves the game. He just loves the game to be played out until the very end. He doesn't care whether it's 3 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. He has this incredible amount of curiosity for the game. And I think this is what gave him all the success, what he reached. And I hope there is a lot of success to come for him more. And well, I'm also very happy for him that he's having a family, starting out becoming a father soon. And he's great for chess. He's a very active and very outspoken and cool, sportive personality of the chess world.
Welcome back, everyone, to the broadcast of the play-in for the Freestyle World Chess Championship. This is it, the knockout stage, and we are left with the one final match for the remaining one qualification spot. Myself and David will be covering the match, but before we get there, David, for anyone who is just tuning in, what's on the line and what have we seen so far?
Well, we've seen some fantastic plays so far. It's going to be Nodirbek after Vachier-Lagrave against Pranav in the final. What's on the line? It's a spot in Weissenhaus in Germany next month in the Freestyle World Championship. Whoever wins here will be the 8th and final player in that field with a world title on the line. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line, potentially. So it's going to be a big one. This could be life-changing for either of them. And yeah, we've seen some great play. I'm going to say especially that Nodirbek game, that showed how sharp he is, how much he wants it, Anna. Pranav was impressive as well, definitely deserved to go through, but maybe his was a closer semi-final. I've got to say Nodirbek's going to start as the favorite here.
I think so. You can, of course, never write off Pranav. He played incredibly well yesterday also in the Swiss stage of the play-in, but as you mentioned, that brutal, crushing attack by Nodirbek of the Satorov, and also how easily he finds those brilliant moves is pretty scary. We do have a position number 65 as the starting position for the first game of the finals. David, your thoughts on this setup, which is again minor pieces on one side, heavy pieces on the other?
Wow, this feels like a total mirror image. I mean, my mind is just always frayed when I'm looking at freestyle chess. It's always so tough to see these patterns, but We saw something very similar yesterday. We saw something very similar earlier today, just with kind of queenside and kingside kind of switched. And Anna, this time maybe a better version because there are bishops in the corner. I'm going to say a better version for white because he can strike first. I'm definitely expecting like early H-pawn pushes as well. That was the recipe for success for Nodirbek in the last game. Maybe he'll try it in this one too. What catches your eye? It looks like all the pawns are defended at least.
Oh, the pawns are defended is a good point. I love the ideas that you showed. I think we will see the B pawn being pushed, and the starting positions makes perfect sense to open up the long diagonal. I always am fond of the alpha 0 pawn pushes. H4, H5, H6, make it all the way there. Probably black will have to stop it. I don't think you can allow the white pawn to make it to H6 with the bishop's diagonal open from A1. So we will likely see those pawns being fixed on the H file. And the rest of the pieces, I think, are also a big question. The castling, when it comes to this starting position, castling kingside seems easier, but you still need to move the queen somewhere. But castling queenside might take forever to prepare for.
Exactly. It's not going to be easy to castle queenside. The knight on C1, the bishop on D1 is especially hard to develop, I would say. The top players, they always say they hate bishops on D1 and E1 to start the games because, like, which way are you getting them out? They just tend to get in the... But yeah, this is going to be interesting. Do you think it's going to be a big advantage to have the white pieces here?
I feel like it's at least looking like it's something. In the previous starting positions, it didn't feel like starting with the white pieces from the initial positions that they were given. It didn't make that much of a difference. It felt like, at least not in the first game of the semifinals. But now this one, I really like that long diagonal bishop. Having said that, sometimes it really is just so chaotic and so messy because of being freestyle that white can make a bad move on as early as the first move, and black strikes back on move 1 and takes the advantage. We saw that in the previous game, actually, in the semifinals, David, that white made the wrong starting move and was worse, even without black making a single move on the board.
Exactly, and the first move in Pranav's game, we see, of course, the big match on the left of our screens, the third place playoff, kind of the consolation match on the right side. But H4, H5, I knew that would happen at some point, Anna, but I didn't think it would happen as early as move 1 or 2. He's totally neglecting the center. What do you make of this?
I love it. It's so creative and cool, just going against all the things we teach in traditional chess and how to play chess. So this is great stuff, and I'm really curious whether Abdusattorov will have to stop it with H6 or just play something else. He says, no, it's okay. I can allow you to push the pawn because I have my own idea. He's grabbing more space in the center and pushing F5 as well. So after H6, do you think he just simply wants to push his pawn one square up and say everything is fine?
Yeah, I think he'll block. Very rare that opponents take a pawn that marches so far down the board, especially on the H and A files. Normally they do want to block, but Pranav waits. He plays the move you were calling for, B3. Probably black will do the same in the near future and play B6. Yeah, I think we'll be focusing mostly on the clash between Pranav and Nodirbek, Anna, just because so much is on the line on that board.
Yeah, the qualification is on the line, and there's only one player that will make it to that qualification spot. So whoever wins this match, whether it's Pranav or Abdusattorov, is going to be the final player to be qualifying for the Freestyle World Chess Championship that's taking place next month in Weisenhausen, Germany. Queen f7 does prepare castling, so black can castle kingside next move. And it's gonna be a lot harder for white to do the same because of having pushed the h-pawn. It's unlikely that you will see white wanting to even castle on that flank. Maybe white will not castle at all.
Yeah, I think it's very unlikely, as you said, right at the beginning of the game, that the king goes queenside. The king getting to c1 is going to take so long. Maybe he's just going to wait as long as possible and then evacuate it. But probably that kind of isn't the biggest issue right now for Pranav. It's kind of how to get the pieces active. At least the queen has a square. The knights have some attractive-ish squares. Bishop on d1, I have no idea. Maybe c4 and put the bishop on c2. But I would say it's much more normal, Nodirbek's position. At least he can just kind of occupy the center, bring a bishop to f6, centralize his knights. It's kind of traditional chess. Pranav's put a lot of pressure on himself to freestyle here, which is the name of the game, but it's not going to be so easy. He starts by attacking the central pawn here.
It's so creative and very different approaches, as you were highlighting, David, how white and black are playing this starting position. It's just continuing in that spirit with queen to h2. I like the creativity. I like how abstract it is. At the same time, it does make things harder for Pranav to just easily wing it, because it doesn't feel as natural as it normally would be in traditional chess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you showed me someone playing h4, h5 in traditional chess, and then playing b3 and e3, I would be like, oh, they're a beginner. But here it makes a lot of sense what he's doing. And now c4, I really like it here and now, because the black knight on c6 feels a bit misplaced. Like knight c3, the knight will have access to d5. I'm always reluctant to put knights on kind of in front of pawns like this. They normally belong behind pawns. But okay, still early days here. And like you said, h6 will always be met by g6.
I think so. Although now that I started looking at it more, I was like, yeah, I guess g6 makes sense. But I was even thinking, did Abdusattorov just not want to react to it? Because maybe he doesn't even mind if that's traded on g7, but perhaps that's a bit too much. I'm not sure. He has been playing so sharp and so taking all the risk. Maybe he just doesn't care, no fear.
Ooh. Now you've said it, like, I've just assumed, like, I kind of, in my mind, black's already castled kingside. But there is a chance that with what he's been doing, I wasn't a fan of knight c6, but if you combine it with knight e7 or knight d6, maybe he is going...
castle queenside and not care about h6 at all. It could be an idea.
Yeah, I think that's the only way he allows, like, the g and h pawns to disappear for each other. Like, if he goes that way with his king. And it's harder for white to do that. It feels like white's weakened things with c4. Also, it's going to be like a fight for the center. Black is almost ready to break out with moves like d5 once the knight gets out to e7. Oh, maybe I'm changing my mind here.
Oh, this position could blow up in just a few moves.
Mm-hmm. It really could. And it's a familiar pattern, Anna. Like yesterday we saw it as well, and it's been the pattern in the semi-finals. Nodirbek always up on time. He's always got an extra couple of minutes, and that helps him so much.
It has been part of his strategy for sure. He plays really fast and confident, and it helps with the time situation and putting even more pressure on his opponent. Now d3 is questioned by the computer.
Yeah, I don't really see why it's a mistake, but I also don't see what the point of the move is. Like, piece development's so much more important. Like knight c3, bishop c2, get the pieces off the back rank. And now knight e7, black is ready to strike out, like open Sicilian style, just with colors reversed. Black's going to castle queenside, I think.
You know what's the funny thing? If we go to the bird's eye view, I feel like they are playing in a similar fashion on the other board as well, but with colors reversed in a way. Not exactly the same, but quite some familiar ideas between the two games. You're
right. Like, there's pawns on e4 and f4 for Tabatabaei, as opposed to e5, f5 for Abdusattorov. There's an h pawn being pushed down the board. Amin does have a big advantage, and suddenly someone who has an advantage, it's Pranav again. Nodirbek rushing when it looked like he was doing well.
Can we analyze that move? Why this d5 pawn push, which seemed like such a logical way to continue, is a mistake? Did he step into something? Maybe he had to prepare d5 by castling first?
Yeah, that's exactly it. But knight b5, I'm trying to figure out what the follow-up is. Oh my gosh, it might be some checkmating ideas, Anna. Let's put it on the board. Knight to b5 is the blue arrow move. Anything else and white is worse. I think taking. Black will castle on the queen side. There will be pressure on a backward pawn. Black is better. But knight b5, that attack c7, only real way to defend it is rook c8 or to castle. If black castles, is the idea d4? It is. It must be, right? Like, what else? d4 and to go for checkmate on this diagonal.
Yeah, I think it is d4. It's got to be d4.
This is hard.
Oh,
Like,
suddenly it is going to be the black king that's under heavy attack through the diagonal and trying to hold the e5 square, but the queen, the bishop, and the pawn are targeting e5.
yeah, and if black tries to defend it with the queen, then white just amps up the pressure with knight to d3 in some variations. I don't know. This is hard, though. Maybe knight d3 now? Oh, the bar collapses. Whoops. Why is this
It's
so winning?
not an easy position, but feels like white has something. At least the computer is very confident about white's attack. He wants to play
winning was-
c5, David. C5.
Of course, Anna. Of course.
Easy
It's gotta be
peasy.
c5.
Oh, the connect four. How could I not see that? I thought I
How
learned
could
something
we-
yesterday.
How could we both have missed this?
it. No, what a blunder, David. How could we? That's unforgivable.
Exactly. I mean, I still don't fully understand it, but we'll pretend it was obvious. I mean, like a6, what is white doing? Probably not retreating the knight. Yeah, this is wild. I mean, it's my favorite game, Connect 4, but I don't know if that's findable, Anna. It's so difficult to see it, first of all, but then to evaluate all of this.
I'm just still. I cannot believe it. Oh gosh. Is it gonna happen? How close are we to this potential connect four?
We're far away now. C takes d5 was played, and now it's
Oh, mistake. Not seeing the potential of the connect four.
exactly. He's playing the wrong game. He's playing the wrong game. Now black's just going to castle queenside, and there's going to be amazing pressure on the d file. White's piece is not ready. I think it was hard because most of white's pieces on the back rank, Anna. So that whole sequence we showed, going against the black king, it feels premature, but somehow that was the exception. It seemed to be quite strong.
Yeah, it was a very concrete line. It makes sense that just by intuition you wouldn't go for it if you don't actually see it fully how it was going to play out well. And it was a very specific, precise line. Now that the trade happened on d5, black is fine again. Of course, now those knight jumps make no sense anymore because the knight from d5 is guarding c7. The queen is also guarding the pawn, so knight b5 makes absolutely no sense anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was very difficult. I think it would have been incredible for Pranav if he'd found that. But of course, he's used so much time already, Anna, that I don't blame him. Like, that was so tough. And now, okay, he's traded off pieces. He needs to develop quick, though. Black's so active, like stuff happening on the diagonal potentially. I'm wondering whether bishop to f3 hitting the queen was his intention, but then e4 gets really sharp.
Oh, I like e4 if you can get that in the right moment with the bishops facing each other, and both bishops would be hanging in that case. Very messy, but it looks like it should be fine for black. Of course, it takes calculation. Much easier said than done to just go for those lines, but it feels like black's pieces are centralized and harmonious, while white's ones are still just this awkward way of like coming from this edge to then that edge. And yeah, the diagonal is open, but the other two minor pieces are still stuck on the back rank. Oh god. And there's no connect 4 anymore.
I know. Connect 2 is the best they can do. They tried.
That's not enough. That cannot
It's
be.
not enough. Well, I promised I wouldn't even talk about it today, but that was the computer. The computer wanted c5, not me.
The computer also appreciates your wisdom, David.
I mean, yeah, at this point, I've looked at so many freestyle games that, like, it's just something I just can't ignore. Somehow, no matter what it is, especially f2, e3, d4, c5, somehow, if you can lock it and if you have pieces on the queen side that have space to go behind those pawns, then somehow it always seems to be a good idea, as opposed to regular chess, where that's far less effective as a structure. But okay, queen h3, he's attacked the f5 pawn and defended now by Nodirbek. e4.
The only way, according to the computer, for white to be just about fine, it's a key move. Any other move is worse.
It makes sense because white's going to be passive forever if he doesn't strike out now. And okay, he does play it just while the queen was undefended. If black had one more move to castle queenside, this wouldn't have been as effective. Now the f5 pawn is under threat, at least. Not so easy to defend it, Anna.
Not easy at all, and this was the crucial move Pranav has found some really precise move. I don't think we can judge him for not seeing the knight b5 connect 4 idea earlier that the computer was talking about. But these moves, they are key moves, and e4 was so important so that he doesn't allow castling for Abdusattorov that would have then prevented any kind of counter pressure. e4 just in the right moment, as you said, David.
And this is a typical kind of Sicilian idea. Normally with colors reversed is the most likely scenario we would see this pawn structure. And often it's a good thing to trade off the E and F pawns. It means that later white will have a nice outpost maybe for the knight on e4, if it can ever get there. The white bishop might land on f3 and get on an open diagonal. So white desperately does want the f pawn. Normally I would be happy to sacrifice it as black, but here it feels like it's helping. And okay, we're getting a suggestion from the chat. Thorn says queenside castle looks so strong for black still, but it is a pawn sacrifice, castling queenside.
It is a sacrifice, and that's why perhaps Abdusattorov will be somewhat regretting not having castled before he went for the concrete lines, because if you started with castling before pushing the d pawn, then would have prevented any of these complications.
Yeah. Definitely get castled before opening up the center. That works as a kind of idiom in standard chess, but here maybe he just got a bit hasty, Nodirbek, and regretting it. There's knight to e7 and there's g6 to defend the pawn. He gives up the pawn on f5. Puts he puts some pressure on the knight. I forgot it was undefended for a second. Like, just the piece configuration on the first rank looks like it's...
I know, you're expecting that the rook would be guarding that at the least.
No, that's annoying. Bishop g5 is clever. And the knight doesn't really want to move because then d3 will become much more vulnerable. Anna, how to deal with it?
I'm just looking at some ridiculous line by the computer because the normal move would be bishop to b2 to defend the knight. That's one of the top moves of the computer. But another top move of the engine is to just hang the knight. Ignore that it's about to be captured. Push h6.
Wait, what?
And if the knight is captured, you are like, okay, I don't care. I'm down a piece, but I'm going to give a check. H takes g7. And then just calmly but coolly continue my attack after queen takes g7 with bishop h5. Now the rook is hanging and the bishop on c1. So you are gaining some material, winning back what you have sacrificed. And the f5 pawn is hanging too with a check.
That would be crazy. That's a Pranav move as well. Oh, but he plays bishop b2. I think he's going to play it safe because of the clock, Anna. But that would have been super cool. h6. Maybe an idea for next move.
Maybe so. I think he's definitely capable of finding ideas like that, but you're right. He's low on time. Again, Nodirbek has done this so well in the entire tournament, playing fast and confident, putting pressure on his opponents on the clock as well. And that matters. It's part of the game. And here, it's so messy. You do need time for calculations. So now that the knight is guarded, we know of this h6 idea. By the way, h6 is also just ridiculous because, I mean, that can be taken. The bishop is guarding that square, the pawn is guarding that square, but the computer just doesn't care about those factors.
Yeah, the computers, they love h6. That's what AlphaZero taught us. Like, even at the cost of a pawn, it opens up the white rook, which suddenly would be developed without having moved. Black castles. I think he's a bit disappointed that he didn't get to castle the other way. He never found time. But at least now his king is safe, Anna, and he does defend f5.
Yeah, the position has gotten now a lot more solid. It was looking really promising for Abdusattorov earlier, a couple of moves ago, and you're right, he would have definitely preferred castle queenside, but it was no longer the same situation. He's guarding now the pawn after castling. f5 is protected. And for Pranav, he has gotten out of a bit of a troublesome start. The position is now quite balanced.
Mm-hmm. Quite balanced. He does need to speed up, though. Only 4 minutes left against 10 minutes right now. Maybe this is a good moment to zoom out, Anna, and just a quick update on the third place playoff.
I agree. There has been a lot happening in the game between Tabatabaei and Oparin for the third place. No longer they can qualify for the Freestyle World Championship, but of course this match still matters, and White is doing extremely well. Look at that king that's being targeted. Now f6 has been pushed, but oh gosh, it's not looking very fine around the black king. The f1 rook, the bishop slicing through the board, the white queen, the pawn, the knight, everything is heading toward that attack.
Yeah, white is the exchange down, but overwhelming compensation. The black queen just couldn't get into the game. The black king still hasn't castled. It does look like Tabatabaei is a favorite to get that point and go into the reverse game with an advantage. But yeah, we'll update everyone if the result comes in there. I think it's all about the black king. He still needs to be accurate. Okay, Anna, maybe we just show what might happen in knight c7 just as we jump in. A mistake. Bishop takes d5, only move. Oh, he finds it. He had to stop knight takes e6 check. Maybe surviving suddenly.
Knight c7 looked like such a straightforward move. You attack the rook, you attack the pawn, but he must have missed that black has this resource of giving back the exchange, sacrificing the material that you have gained so that you can solidify your position. And the defense now, of course, is a lot stronger with the bishop on d5, leading to further simplifications.
Exactly, and pawn advantage as well, so it's at least something to suffer for, like knight takes, king takes, and white is running out of material. Just to show, when we jumped in, knight to c7 was a mistake. Instead, white should have been playing, for example, pawn to c4 with the same idea, just stopping the black bishop from getting in. So e takes d5, now knight to c7 or knight to d6, for example, and this is really, really difficult for black. Queen takes e7, almost unstoppable now. And just to show a checkmate, if the knight jumps out the way, queen e8 mate. And there we go. I had to show it, Anna. This is what you could have been doing.
No, of course. This is so instructive and such a pretty checkmate. It might not happen, but it was definitely a very important learning moment in the broadcast. And there's still so much danger in the position that black king really is like it never castled. And the rooks and the queen are still so awkward. It's not how you are supposed to be playing in chess, whether it's freestyle or traditional chess.
That's very true. You need to get castled, keep that king safe, get the pieces off the back rank, and these heavy pieces still haven't moved. And Anna, we actually, after bishop takes d5, we saw a cool idea from Tabatabaei. Bishop takes f6, g takes.
Ooh.
Now bishop takes d5, and this is the position. Rook takes f6 is a major threat. Taking the knight, this ends in checkmate. If black tries to keep the king, probably has to throw the queen in the way. But this is game over. Here we go. And okay, maybe he has to play f5 here. That's not easy at all.
He has just played it. He found it. This was a full rook sacrifice by Tabatabaei had the knight been taken. But now after f5, he is giving a knight fork and will win the exchange back.
Mm-hmm. Going to be level material, but white has the safer king, so still a favorite. Tabatabaei. Maybe this is a good moment again to go back to our marquee match. And
it certainly is, because the advantage of Abdusattorov has increased to a substantial level. What happened in the game? Let's catch up.
Let's jump over. We've just seen a big mistake from Pranav. Very quick action replay. We left it after black had castled. White ended up castling in this position. Knight to d4, given a question mark because of knight to e2 trading things off, and white is doing okay. But e takes f5, a natural move, has walked into bishop to d2. Anna, I think he just forgot his rook was trapped, and now he panicked. He should have put it on e3 to sacrifice it so that the f-pawn could at least join up in the center. But rook e4, and black is apparently close to winning.
It's the wrong square. There's the right idea to give up the exchange, as you said, but the wrong square for it, because it will leave that monster knight on d4. And that is quite the difference when it comes to the attack here. I think Nodirbek will take it. He still has, by the way, such a huge time advantage. And he doesn't take the rook. He takes on f5.
Wow. There's materialism, and then there's just good moves. And like, if you can win the exchange and have an advantage, then why not? That was played really quickly. Just to show
maybe
Anna,
too quickly.
If we go back, there's a double attack. He could have taken the rook and then played this move, queen c6, hitting the knight now twice. And if the knight saves itself, moves somewhere, then queen takes e4. He would have had an extra rook for knight or rook for bishop here, and everything still up for grabs. Big advantage, but he missed it. Queen takes f5.
It was a
It's back to
huge
level.
moment for Nodirbek, but he played it so quickly. We have been praising his confidence and fast chess, but sometimes in critical moments, the best you have is the time resource on your side and to invest it in a critical moment like this. Had he calculated a bit more, maybe he would have found how decisive the advantage would have been by capturing the exchange.
Yeah, now it's just looking more like a normal position. Probably black still has a small advantage because the white bishop and knight are still stuck. But he could have had so much more, Nodirbek. The bishop is attacked, probably will retreat. And still all to play for, level material.
Level material, huge time pressure. He has nearly 7 extra minutes in comparison to Pranav, who is down to 52 seconds. There's only a 3-second increment per move, so you can't really live off of the increment forever. It's very hard. The position has gotten somewhat more simplified. That's favoring Pranav, that it's no longer that chaotic with the queens on the board, but still there's quite some venom, and you need to play precisely from white's perspective, of course.
Definitely, and he shifts his rook across. Very natural. He's going for the e-pawn. He couldn't have taken it there because the white bishop cannot get distracted. It needs to defend its knight on c1. But now there is a threat to win a pawn. Okay, what to do next? Not easy to defend it. Maybe can't defend it.
Yeah, with 3 pieces attacking and no pawns nearby, that's an isolated pawn that's about to be taken. There's no way of guarding it. So can you create counterplay? Can you go for something like knight h4, attack the g2 pawn, and say that pawn cannot be pushed because then there's knight f3, knight fork?
That is clever. I think that's on his radar as well. He took back on f5 with the knight just a moment ago. So you always kind of look at the pieces that are most kind of far forward in chess, and knight h4 is the only real threat he can make. I wonder whether f3 he's calculating that, Anna.
Yeah.
There we go.
f3 you were saying, you're wondering if there's any sacrifices perhaps?
Yeah, exactly. And then knight takes f3, knight takes e1. I don't know whether it helps black that, but it's definitely on his mind. And Pranav has 30 seconds to work it out. What to do?
Not easy. f3 is on the board. Is there a potential sacrifice? Bishop takes f3 to then land the knight fork. Win the rook, but you're giving up 2 minor pieces for it.
It's either that or try to hold on to e5, which is maybe now possible, but he goes back with his knight, looking at some weak squares. And
that's a question mark, even though it's a human move to try to play then knight g3 and pick up the h5 pawn.
Exactly, but blue arrow, Anna, I was going to say, how hard is that? But he's found a way out for his bishop.
Pranav says it's the easiest move on the planet. How was that so quickly and easily played? He does activate the bishop now with a check, so that is the main point of the pawn push.
He moves his rook. Nodirbek does have a lot of holes to jump into. Like g3 is a bit of a hole, d4 is eternally an outpost. And so much extra time. Surely, Anna, surely he doesn't let Pranav off the hook. If Pranav saves this, he's going to feel like he's won the game. Just because of the clock situation.
Definitely. He was much worse earlier in the position, very low on time the whole game. This is huge for Pranav to save. And that whole sequence with b4 and moving the bishop away was the only way to save his rooks, because there was so little space for the rooks, and the knight coming to g3 would have been a knight fork. So this was absolutely the only way to stay in the game. He played it, he found it, but still it's such a big time advantage. 24 seconds left for Pranav against 5.5 minutes for Abdusattorov.
Yeah, he's playing hyper bullet. Abdusattorov is playing blitz. It's a bit of a mismatch on the clock. e5 is attacked though finally, so maybe needs to do something about that. Nodirbek. White has got his other pieces onto left clumsy squares finally. Oh, people in the chat still thinking that Nodirbek is the favorite to win this game. He does look locked in. He's still asking questions on every move, creating those threats. I'm expecting bishop to g3 just to keep the status quo. You don't want to change too much when your opponent's in time trouble. Don't want to give them easy forcing moves to find. I
like bishop to g3. Knight d4 is the only other option perhaps to keep the pawn, and he does go for the other one. I thought he wouldn't because it leads to another pair of moves simplifying the position further. Black is still better. You have the control of the open e-file. The rook is not able to challenge that rook from white's perspective because of this h4 bishop guarding the e1 square. So quite stuck everything for white. If you were to move the rook away from white's back rank, you get checkmated. That is how bad the white's king situation is. So certainly pressure. Maybe something like blocking the e-file at some point with knight e2 and then move the rook to the c-file for white.
Yeah, I agree. That has to be what's on Pranav's mind next. That's why the blue arrow has appeared. And the computer, it is a bit counterintuitive. It wants to move the bishop away from that beautiful h4 square you mentioned, Anna. But I guess knight to e2, it wants to meet with putting the bishop on e3, just parking it to block the e-file and to prevent white's rook ever using the c-file.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Very prophylactic thinking that the knight is coming to e2 anyway, the pawn will be hanging anyway, and you don't want the white rook on c1. So bishop g5 seems to be a key move. The only way for Abdusattorov to keep his advantage, he's got 3 minutes and 42 seconds left to find it. He's been playing so confident and so fast, but now he's slowing down a little bit. It's no longer that obvious for him how to proceed. If not bishop g5, what else do you think he's considering? Rook e5 to attack the pawn could be another one.
Yeah, I think that's probably the first thing on his mind. Bishop g5 is a very sophisticated, kind of deeper move. Like rook e5 will only be 3 or 4 moves down the line, but this does attack something. There he will be calculating what to do against knight e2 to take d4, some exchanges. Oh, he's burning a lot of time though. Pranav's going to be gaining in confidence. It is now. I've seen the blue arrow. I can't unsee it, Anna, but I don't know if I would would play it myself if I wasn't aware that this is the best maneuver.
It's so much easier for us with, of course, even just to see the evaluation bar is a big information, a piece of information that players don't ever have, of course, but the blue arrow, it says it all. I cannot unsee it either, David. But if we didn't see it, I probably would have never even looked in that direction because I like the bishop on h4. The problem is knight e2 challenges everything because you can't really support the pawn well on d4. If you had a knight guarding that pawn or a different pawn structure, then you would leave the bishop on h4. It's perfect for paralyzing the white king, for taking advantage of the weaknesses on the dark squares, for threatening back rank checkmate. So it's a great location, and that's why it's hard to think about having to move it away.
Exactly. And he's kind of frowning a lot, Nodirbek. He spent 3 minutes almost, but he has found the best move, putting Pranav under pressure. That bishop's going to be a beast, dominating everything on the e3 outpost. Okay, that was worth the time usage. I was going to say, if he spends 3 minutes and then doesn't find it, Anna, then game on. But
yeah,
he did the idea.
It's always painful if you do invest time and then you don't find the right move. But in this case, it's exactly what Black had to do to keep his advantage. So game on, and now after rook e5, suddenly that pawn is going to be in trouble. White is trying to hold on to it, but who will be guarding the queen's side? You can try to poke white on the queen's side very soon. I think also the bishop coming into the game with bishop c6, and it's just been played because now the bishop on e3 is taking away key squares, and the bishop coming to a4 will be really unpleasant too, or bishop b5.
Oof, that was a great move. Someone in the chat called that bishop a sniper on a8, but it was staring at pawns. Now it's even stronger, trying to get down to c2. That has been blocked. I don't think he'll trade off, Anna. He stops bishop f7. Now he just really wants to play rook g5, hit the knight, and then take h5. And yeah, it looks very strong. But going back now, the only way to keep the advantage. Pranav's fighting really, really well.
It really has been impressive, his resilience, and it looks like grabbing the pawn is not okay for Black, or it's not as promising as it looks like, because that leads to an opposite colored bishop endgame. Even though it wins the pawn, a key piece for Black is gone. So you need to play bishop b5, but will Abdusattorov find it? He has played it. Bishop c2 is a question mark. You should have challenged it with bishop c4, according to the computer, but such a difficult position for Pranav, and no time, 7 seconds left.
Yeah, this is what I meant earlier. The clock never really plays a factor until later in the game when you need that bank. You need a bit of time just in case there's any nasty surprises. Maybe Black could have used the time to go Rook H1 check and go in and behind. That's been stopped, at least for now, by the White Knight hitting the Rook, protecting. Nodirbek's going to move, but he is a pawn up here. He's got the bishop pair. He's got the extra minute on the clock. Pranav does need something really, really special to save this game. And here we go. He's trying to get the rook in.
It's so hard. It's really just so much pressure now with the rook on h2 and the bishop coming to f4. Check on the back rank to push the king out, and then you can give another check with bishop to e3.
And now that white king is pretty much trapped. And
almost checkmated. H4's checkmate was the big threat. Pawn checkmate.
Yeah, he's avoided it, but the white king has had to run away, and he's going to be losing the f4 pawn now, 2 pawns down. And this looks hopeless, but at least finally some counterplay. For the first time in ages, the white rook has actually got a threat, but stopped. That was easy.
Oh, it's so sad. Black pushes c6, and that's all. There's no further punches that white can get in. He's trying. Pranav is fighting. Pushes a5 that try to take on b6 or weaken the c5 square, but Black has so many good moves, including putting pressure on the g2 pawn with rook to g4. You can, I guess, make any other improving moves, but rook g4 was perhaps the most straightforward. He plays it, king comes to f3, and now rook back to g6.
Ooh, checkmate threatened. You need to stop it.
Beautiful. That king was going to get checkmated with a pawn. Now bishop checkmate was threatened. Had to push g3, but that allows h3. The pawn is now passed pawn, 1 square away from promotion. Allowing the promotion. It's checkmate in 2 with bishop check, and next move you promote. Wow. What a start for Nodirbek Abdusattorov in the finals for the one remaining qualification spot of the Freestyle World Chess Championship that will take place next month in Weissenhaus. This was the first game. It's a best of 2. So in the next game, Pranav has to win in order to tie the score. This is it. He's in a must-win situation. Otherwise, Nodirbek Abdusattorov is through and will be the final player for the World Championship in Freestyle.
He is relentless, Nodirbek Abdusattorov. He was so quick, so confident there, and he got the job done eventually. Here we see the 3rd place playoff. We can do a quick count. White has 3 pawns, now down to 2, but Black only has 1, so only Tabatabaei can win, but maybe just the white king being so passive here, Anna, means that it's not going to be possible. I don't think there's any way to ever get past the black rook, which is keeping the b pawn under lock and key.
And the black king can just continuously chase the rook. That's what Oparin is doing here, going back and forth. As you have mentioned, the white king cannot be improved because of the 3rd rank blockade. Now, a check means that there will be further checks, and unless you want to try to approach the rook, in which case you lose the g-pawn, or if you hide the king on h2, it's not going to be possible to activate that white king. King g4 is a great way of just showcasing how white cannot make any progress.
Yeah, active pieces. Black's rook and king are so active, and that's why he can hold the balance being down a pawn. In some worlds, he can even play f3, trade things off, and yeah, he doesn't want to. He's happy to go back. He's found the right formation. And rook's behind passed pawns and nothing to be done. This is going to be a draw in the near future. And yeah, I think maybe Tabatabaei, judging on what we saw earlier, he had some winning chances. He's going to be the one disappointed with the result here.
Yeah, he was the one pushing, and he had an advantage earlier, a bigger advantage than this rook endgame. So definitely a great result and an escape by Oparin, saving the game. And then again, the same situation, but without the decisive result, meaning this match is wide open. They will be playing a 2nd game with colors reversed for the 3rd place. We have seen these king moves back and forth. White is still trying, but there is no progress. King h1, the position is slightly different now, so no 3-fold repetition as of now.
Yeah, I'm not going to really call it a winning attempt, king h1. He's going to have to go back to g1 at some point, but he's keeping the game alive. I think he's just kind of stubbornly not agreeing to the draw because he knows he was winning earlier to Tabatabaei, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
Ultimately, nothing to do.
Yeah, the advantage was so much bigger earlier, so it's always a hard break. It's difficult to accept the reality that it's no longer the case, but eventually a draw has been agreed. So this game so far is level. In the next game, Oparin will have the white pieces. This is for the third place, the match between Tabatabaei and Grigory Oparin, while in the finals, Nodirbek Abdusattorov has taken the lead in such a confident fashion. Maybe he didn't always play in the most accurate way, but he did play very fast and very confident no matter what, and he confidently is now 1 point ahead in a best of 2 mini match, meaning that all he needs is a draw to qualify to the one remaining spot of the Freestyle World Chess Championship.
Exactly. So close now, Nodirbek. However, with white in big games, traditionally he has struggled slightly. He nearly won the Tata Steel Masters a couple of years ago, lost with white in the last round. He lost twice with white against Magnus at the World Blitz. He only needs a draw with white, but Anna, that can sometimes be the most difficult spot to be in. You don't know how hard to push. You don't know exactly what you should be doing. He sees the finishing line in sight. This is the moment, if ever, that he might get a little bit nervous.
I think so. And it's also not really his playing style to just go solid and not do much. He loves going for it. He likes to play sharp and confident, take risks. So I don't think he will change that. I think that's who he is. And maybe if he fights that, that's the problem. You know, you don't play like how you normally would be handling the game. I'm very curious about the starting position, by the way, David, because we're going to get a new starting position. This is freestyle chess. There's 959 possible starting positions. We have seen so many of the ones with minor pieces on one flank. I think we surely won't get another one, right?
Surely not. Surely we won't get a queen in the corner as well. We've seen so many queens start on H1, A1. It would be nice to get a queen in the center for once. Some minor pieces on both flanks. And we'll see, though.
Yeah.
Maybe Nodirbek wants something super symmetrical.
Who knows? I'm so curious. I think I would also predict maybe a queen on a more central file. The king situations have been funky too for castling. Sometimes it was like as early as move 1 where you can castle, but meaning that the other flank castling was near impossible. So the players have just been given the starting position, and it's position number 355. What does that say to you, David?
Ooh, that's very different from what we've seen so far today. We've seen 2 in the high 800s, and I believe 1 in quite low numbers there. So somewhere in the middle, we're going to find out any second now. Anna, we get a position, and I'm not sure whether it's exactly what we asked for, but it's different. That's the key. It's always different.
It is different. The king is where it was. There are minor pieces stuck on the king's side, 3 of them, and a knight in the corner on the queen's side. What do you make of this, David? And what are your first thoughts when you see this?
Oh, this is one of those positions you can create threats on move 1. The A7 pawn's undefended. So very possible we'll see moves like F4 early on, G3 early on. Both sides can attack those pawns, of course. I think this is going to be a good thing for Pranav. I don't see it becoming boring anytime soon. Often if the F-pawns are ever pushed, then it can get a bit spicy. There will be challenges in the center. And I think Pranav, he's going to be happy it's not going to be dull, at least in the early stages.
It's definitely a dynamic position. As of course it is with freestyle chess, there's a lot of creativity and a lot of spark, and there's no opening theory as we all know it. Although you can try to analyze it, the players still have 2 more minutes to analyze the starting position. You can't go very deep, but you will probably have your initial thoughts about the piece development you want to go for, the pawn structure you're aiming for, and where you want to castle is always a big question too.
Ooh, prediction. Which side are we going to see the players castle on, if any?
Oh, it's easier now on the queen side. You only need to move the queen out. At the same time, I kind of like the idea that you could have a fianchetto castle. So if you move the g-pawn, opening up the long diagonal, then the king would be feeling pretty safe with the bishop on that diagonal, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big if, because you need to move the other bishop out. You need to move the knight out. and then you can castle.
Oh, it's going to take a while. Yeah, that being said, I guess it's the same dilemma for both players. So maybe if white gets the first move, white gets castled first. What are your first move predictions? We're going to see a quick hit on those lonely A-pawns, or are we going to see that a bit later?
I think, David, I think you called it, and I think it's just too tempting not to do it. You win a tempo. Why not move a pawn that it develops your bishop and makes your opponent have to react to that pawn push? So maybe both games, for once, perhaps in the entire tournament, we're going to get to see perhaps 2 games that start in the same fashion, because that's quite the tempting move to make for sure.
Yeah, and I have seen Nodirbek Abdusattorov play these types of positions. He had a famous game against Magnus 1 year ago in Weissenhaus, in the first freestyle slam of that year. And that started in a similar position, f4, f5. Bishops took their kind of corresponding A-pawns. The rooks quickly disappeared. And we could see something similar this time. Although he's on the white side, he only needs a draw. Maybe he'll try and make it a bit more quiet. We'll see. Game's about to kick off.
I'm really curious, and I think we do have f4 on the board official. Abdusattorov is going for it, attacking the hanging a7 pawn, and f5. You called it, David. Repeating that game of Abdusattorov against Magnus Carlsen. Will they go and trade rooks in the funniest way possible?
Oh, it's very possible. Nodirbek has to decide. Does he want to slow things down now? Maybe block, for example, with b3, block the long diagonal, and the game goes on. I guess black will do the same, or maybe bring a knight out to b6. Or does he want to allow black to take? Oh, he's going for this. I think he wants pieces off the board, Anna. He knows the black rook's not running away, so he's going to allow his rook to get captured first. And, okay, we'll see symmetry with fewer pieces and opposite color bishops.
This is really cool. It's mind-boggling. Of course, only happens in freestyle chess that you can win a pawn on the first move, trade rooks as soon as move 3, and now that means that the f5 pawn is hanging, as you're pointing out, David, with the queen on b1. Also, castling queenside is no longer possible, but castling kingside is, and probably will be, something that the players are aiming for.
Exactly, and I think Pranav wants those first few moves back. Like, now white's going to strike out with e4. White breaks the symmetry. It's not just that, Anna, but there's just so few pieces left. He needs to win with black. And it's opposite color bishops. That's a bad sign. White gets the break in the center first. I think winning chances for black are already minimal.
Yeah, and everything happens so fast. In the other game, they are still on move 2. While Abdusattorov and Pranav, they have blitzed out these initial moves, and as you said, it's probably not what Pranav wanted. He is in a must-win situation against Abdusattorov, while Oparin and Tabatabaei, playing for the 3rd place, are still taking it very calmly. Oparin pushing b3, not allowing the same capture b6, a mirror position.
Exactly. There's different dynamics on the 3rd place playoff board. It's level right now. Oparin maybe wants more tension. He wants to keep the game going. But for Pranav, often step 1 in must-win situations, just keep the pieces on the board. Just make your opponent sweat a bit later. Make them kind of go to great lengths to swap off pieces. I really don't like what Pranav's doing. And I think already Nodirbek is kind of got 1 foot now in the World Championship, the freestyle event next month.
Definitely looking like a very promising start for him. We could dive into that position again and analyze the details of what makes this position so advantageous for white, David. How would you sum up the key factors here?
Yeah, I think compare the queens. We talk about the queens a lot. Black's queen is going to take a few moves to get into the game. White's is already very active. The black king just looks a bit open. I really don't like this d5 move. There's small factors, Anna. There's no immediate threats, but white has easy moves as well. g3 is an automatic to unleash the bishop. Knight e3 is the only other remaining piece that needs to be developed. I don't really see what black's doing other than maybe building for e5 at some point, but very best case scenario, just more exchanges and equality. I think he's struggling to even stay alive.
Yeah, it's really tough to be in a must-win situation when you're on the defending side of a position where equality is your best chance if you survive the position. So to sum up, this is a mini match for the one remaining qualification spot in the Freestyle World Championship taking place next month, and Abdusattorov is already 1 point ahead in the match. He only needs half a point. A draw is enough for him to qualify. Therefore, Pranav, in a must-win situation, somehow needs to play this really difficult situation for a win with the black pieces.
Yeah, good luck to him. He will need to do something a bit special here. E5 is on his radar, for example, but that just makes it closer to symmetry again after some exchanges. If black doesn't break out, Anna, then I think he might be a bit too slow. White might just get those 2 connect 3s. The pawns just completely clamping down on the dark squares, and e5 may never happen again.
How does that compare to a connect 4? Are 2 connect 3s nearly as good enough as a connect 4?
Oh, it's like poker, right? It's like 3 of a kind. What does that beat? Is it better than 3 of a kind or 2 pairs? In chess, it's different, but I think I would take connect 4, but why not? I established this pawn here, and it's not just the pawns for white, it's the backward pawn on e7 for black.
That's the main difference, because black has also created a connect 3 by pushing c6, and the pawn structure on the king side is looking good, except for that e7 pawn that you're saying. If you could move that e pawn to the f5 to f5, then it's symmetrical and safe, healthy pawn structures, but it's on e7, backward pawn. It's a weakness for the rest of the game.
Exactly. And d4 played by Nodirbek. Very logical. At least the black queen can come out at some point. Not sure exactly what she should be doing. Probably trading queens is not a good idea just because of the match situation. Oh, it's tough when you can kind of get bullied just by the fact that you need to play for a win.
Yeah, always so hard. So you cannot go for the objectively best moves if they are the simplifying moves.
Exactly. Not easy at all. Black would love to get castled, but e7 is hanging. Bishop f6 maybe, but white's bishop is going to be phenomenal on this diagonal in the near future.
It's such a weakness there on e6 that you're pointing out. A beautiful spot for a bishop or a knight. Knight to c4 makes sense, activating the knight and attacking the b2 pawn.
Yeah, the people in chat as well, not seeing Nodirbek losing this position. Some crazy stuff would have to happen for Nodirbek to find himself in trouble. But first of all, how to defend b2. He can move his knight on b3 out the way. He can defend it with his king. Lots of choice. Still 13 minutes on the clock. He's been so quick. That's been his secret weapon. And wow, Anna, he doesn't even defend because the black knight will be trapped if it does get greedy and take on b2.
I love it. Can we show that line that no matter how the pawn is captured with a check, it actually is something that black shouldn't go for because of the king to c2. The knight needs to retreat. He can only go to c4, after which that knight is taken. And I don't think you even take on c4. You could take on c4, but knight a5 looks like a beast of a move. With b7 hanging, c6 would be a knight fork if you were to push the b pawn.
Yeah, this is brutal. And again, it's the comparison of the pieces. The white queen better than its counterpart. The black bishop stuck. Therefore, the white bishop better. And the white knight much more active. Every piece of white's is better than every piece of black's. Therefore, he doesn't go for that line. He takes the knight instead. And now it's a question of which way to recapture. King would be maybe the most logical, but the white knight could also go the other way. Could take back and go round.
That makes sense, and I think he might be tempted to do that. He does take with the king, and that allows the rook to swing over to the queen side as well, so you can occupy the a file with rook a1 if you wanted to. Although I do like the rook on e1 for now, putting pressure on that backward pawn and paralyzing black's pieces. Bishop to f6 is against that. It's trying to at least say that at some point I'm going to be able to move, or maybe even castle as black.
Exactly. It's definitely an idea at some point, but how to amp up the pressure for Nodirbek. Sometimes positions are just too nice, Anna, and I don't really know what to do next. Sometimes it's like, okay, the rook is perfect on the e-file, the queen is perfect, the knight looks good. Maybe it is just
I think
slow
your
and
bishop
prudent.
maneuver, I love that idea that you showed, how the bishop could land on e6, and then just that diagonal already is looking really vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Process of elimination. I don't think there's too many other tempting moves. I could see him playing knight a5 just to keep the black king away from the king side, just to kind of keep it on this side, like c7, c8, and then kind of know at least where he's targeting. But there we go. He moves the bishop instead. Very logical.
He goes for your idea, and for black, unfortunately, it's really difficult to create any kind of counter chances. A reminder that Pranav is in a must-win situation, so it's not about just surviving this position, it's about having to turn the tables fully. But how do you create chances? G5 would be a way to try to poke white's position, maybe the only way you can poke.
Exactly. You got to break that beautiful pawn chain, break the white pawns. You got to do something. Get the black queen out, and especially because he needs to win. Like Anna, this feels to me like the freestyle version of kind of traditional chess, where with white you just sit on positions, block it up. You only need a draw. He's doing everything right, Nodirbek. But G5 does land.
It does. He has to try. And I think it was pointed out also by a couple of our viewers how great of a choice was by Nodirbek to go for that early trade that you mentioned, David, trade the rooks in that funky way, because he does have draw odds, and simplifying the position is in his favor. So he's playing really well, and he's also playing with the match situation being what it is. He is half a point closer to that qualification that all the players have been playing for. 104 players started our playing tournament yesterday, and these are the last two men standing.
Yeah. It's only going to be one at the end of this game, or at the very least at the end of the Armageddon. I think actually Pranav, he's been unlucky. He was the victim of his own knowledge in this opening, because these types of positions, I've studied them quite a lot, and F4, the computer always says F5 is the best response to equalize. But it's just led to the type of position which is so lacking in winning chances. Maybe he didn't need to push d5. He would have been fine. It would have been equal. But I think the match situation, it was better to know nothing at all. And after f4, just play like knight b6 or b6 and block and just keep the game going. So I think he knew that. He knew what the computer says in these types of positions. But sometimes it's better not to know.
Sometimes it really is because of what the match situation is and how he had to aim for something more dubious sometimes. Maybe not the very best, but at least with more life in the position. The current position, I guess, still has some life now that he can take on f4. What is Abdusattor's response after g takes f4, you think, David?
Ooh, I think he just wants to eliminate the knight and land a check with knight c5. Maybe we investigate. There's going to be a bit of a pause here while Pranav calculates. Actually, probably match situation. He has to take on f4. But let's see. If he does capture, bishop takes knight. This is a scary check. Where does the king go? I'm guessing c8, not to block the black queen, to defend b7. And where's the follow-up for white? I don't see it, Anna. The queen needs to somehow get on over to this diagonal, but it takes a while.
The crazy thing is that the computer was so happy about this pawn sacrifice just to be able to play now king to c2. So just say, I don't have anything immediate, but my pieces are dominating yours. So white is down a pawn, but has really active pieces. And there's nothing specific, nothing immediately winning, nor the position is winning, but it's enough compensation because you can't really activate black's pieces. Thanks to this knight, the monster knight on c5, the queen putting pressure on the b7 pawn, and the rook on e1, all three pieces of white are very active.
Yeah, this is very deep. I'd be super impressed if this is what Nodirbek has in mind. And just to further your point, I guess b6 here, attacking the knight, would be met by some tactics. Well, I didn't think the bar would go that high. I was looking at like rook e6. Yeah, looks quite strong to me, but also queen a4 apparently according to the computer. And okay, this is deep stuff, I've got to say, from Nodirbek. The whole idea being that this is a fork, king to d8, and the kiss of death, the sting in the tail, rook coming into a1.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, He doesn't
This
go
would
for
have
this
been
though, Anna.
quite defined, but he went for something different. And maybe his idea, to be fair, for the match situation might be better because he's trying to force further simplifications, attacking first the b7 pawn, and if king c7, only move according to the computer to stay with the equality, then you take on d7 and trade on b7.
Oh, that's cynical. That's the match situation talking. Let's show that on the board. King c7, as you said, take, check, take, and the dust will settle around here, and white's going to put a knight back. Just no material left really for Pranav to hope to win this game. White can go after the h-pawn as well. This is going to be a draw. That's enough. He's doing it the most direct way.
It makes sense that he was seeking for something like this that leads to further simplifications, and Pranav can't really prevent it. If he doesn't play king c7, what are the other alternatives, David? Let's analyze what he might be thinking. How can he keep the game going with some more life in it?
Yeah, let's say he takes on g3. Oh, the bar creeps up. Oh, it's going up and up and up. What is the winning move? Oh, I'm going to try and find this myself now.
Sure.
Taking b7 check. Probably just to capture. The king moves. Probably just another capture. And this knight check. And the black king is not going to survive this. Surely. I think I can move here. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, I'll just keep it simple.
I saw it, unfortunately, because of the engine, and then it's way too easy once you see it, that it's just a simple trade and the knight fork. The rook on e8 will be hanging, the spin wins the piece.
Okay, therefore, I think he looked at this variation. I think he saw it as well, Pranav. He did find the best move, but it's not going to be enough for an advantage for black. If Nodirbek wants to be cynical, trade everything off.
He's thinking, so he's considering alternatives.
I guess the
He
alternatives
could take
would be
on
just
f4 as well if he wants to just keep the position.
slow play it, but no, he takes on b7. He wants opposite color bishops. Double exclam. It is a sacrifice, technically.
It is a sacrifice of a knight temporarily, so that then he wins back the d7 knight. And again, it's such a pragmatic decision. You only need a draw to qualify to an incredibly strong world championship that you want to be playing. So why risk it? He's going for the most solid approach. An opposite colored bishop endgame would be near impossible to lose.
Yeah. And that's why black didn't take the knight on b7. We would have seen queens disappear and the knight on d7 would have been hit. He goes back to a5 to stop knight c4 check. Or, well, I say stop. Knight c4 check still on the cards. Might have to play it at some point before white gets in with the queen.
But I guess that is again in Abdusattorov's favor with the opposite colored bishop endgame.
Yeah. Just all the pawns are just starting to disappear. If the queens and knights disappear, then it's very difficult to win for black.
And Pranav yet has to find something, try something. E5 is a computer move that maybe Pranav would consider too, because at least it's in that spirit of trying to keep the game alive.
Yep. E5 I quite like as well, because white does have this idea of rook to e6 in the near future. Okay, he just takes back Nodirbek. No flashy moves there. Level pawns.
It's getting tough to play anything but knight c4.
Yeah. Now e5 I think is probably less attractive for a few reasons, but especially because the white rook can at some point shift and get up into the 7th rank.
Yeah, that's looking scary with the open f-file and the king on c7 getting targeted. So I think he will end up playing knight c4 and try to play the opposite colored bishop endgame, as sad as it is.
Yeah, I can't move the black rook because white can sacrifice on e7 with a deadly check. Bishop g5 check just looks kind of pointless. The white king wants to get to c2 away from any checks. I think process of elimination, as you say, Anna, like there's literally nothing else. If the black queen moves, there's going to be queen c5 ideas. Oh, no. Oh, dear. Oh.
He's trying to keep the game alive, maybe a bit too much.
I think
Queen
he's blundered.
a7.
He's reacted there,
Oh.
Pranav. He thought he was threatening queen takes a5, knight c4 check. But I think he's forgotten that after queen takes a5, the black knight is pinned.
And he knows it, he sees it, you can see it all on his face. He knows that he blundered. That is exactly what he wanted to. He wanted to sacrifice the queen with knight c4 check at the end, but that was going to be an illegal move. He has to play knight c4 regardless, but now this is a completely lost position. Nodirbek Abdusattor is about to qualify to the Freestyle World Chess Championship because this is the second and final game. If he wins or draws, he is the one to win it all.
Touching distance now. He just needs to take this pawn. He's going to be up a pawn, big attack ongoing. Maybe there's even stronger. He drops his bishop back to f3. He is going to the World Championship, surely. Pranav has done everything. He's tried his best. It's not going to be enough. Oh, there's already tactics like rook takes e7 check here. He takes on c6.
The king has to go to d8.
Mm-hmm. He can even take this pawn now. Rook takes b2 is just one check. The king will hide on d3. Nodirbek, he knows it. He's just trying to steady his own nerves. He paused there, but Pranav knows it as well. The king's going to hide everything on light squares. Checkmate incoming with rook c8, with queen's g8. Will we see a fist pump? Last couple of moves, Anna. I think we're there.
This is it. Resignation by Pranav, and Nodirbek Abdusattorov does it. He wins a field in a field of 104 players trying to qualify to the Freestyle World Chess Championship. He's the last man standing. Congratulations to Nodirbek. What a game and what a match this has been. David, please tell us about your thoughts about Nodirbek's play, and also, of course, we will try to get an interview with the winner. So don't go anywhere. We'll try to talk to Nodirbek, but I do want to hear your quick thoughts on what happened today and yesterday, David.
So well deserved. By far the most consistent player, always on the front foot. It felt like he nailed the openings, always energetic, well deserved. I think he showed his experience. He played a lot of freestyle chess in 2025, and today he was just a little step above. Pranav tried everything. Earlier, it was also a very close match in the semifinals, but yeah, he just had that little bit extra. I think he deserves to be there, Anna. And the other 7 are not going to be happy that Nodirbek's joined them, because the form he showed today is scarily good.
It is very scary and very much deserved, as you have said, David. We do still have one more game. This is the match for the 3rd place between Oparin and Tabatabaei. And honestly, this match has been so level. They are still in a very tight, very balanced position, double rook end game. And if it's a draw, I think we will be happy for it, because then we get to see Armageddon.
Exactly. More chess. We want more chess.
Yes, more chess. Yes.
Exactly. But it is Tabatabaei who's trying to fight for the draw. But I think this last move is very accurate. He's going to take the d pawn and then use his rook to shield the 7th rank, the other one. I think he chose the correct rook there, Anna, and probably enough now for the draw. If he's accurate, rook f6 is a candidate move, c4. Lots of choice.
I think he will play rook f6, and then white needs to perhaps try with d7 to keep that pawn on the board. But after rook to f7, you run out of options other than doubling the rooks on the d5 to keep the pawn. And then black can start pushing the c pawn, so you will have to end up giving up your d pawn for the c pawn.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the most obvious move as well. Rook f6, unfortunately, for Oparin. And the only question is whether white can win a pawn. I think he can, but it just leads to a dead drawn rook endgame, unfortunately. Rook takes c5. Everything will get captured on d6. White can give some checks. Rook c8, rook c7, take this pawn. But the black rook's going to be so dominant on d2. And like you said, it's really balanced. They've had multiple rook and pawn endgames at this point and just neutralizing each other.
Oparin ends up taking on c5, leading to the trade of the pawns and trade of a pair of rooks, now a check. He'll be able to pick up the h7 or the a7 pawns, but it's not enough because black will be really active.
Yeah, rook on d2 will just tie down white's king forever. We pretty much saw this exact scenario just with reverse colors in the previous game between these two. And yeah, he's just deciding whether he can go active with the black king or whether he has to step back. Tabatabaei, he can go active. And now will he give a couple of checks? There we go. Force the white king to a bad square, and then he'll save his h-pawn. h6, h5. The white king's just too bad.
You can never activate that king. In fact, you could get checkmated if you try with king h4. That will lead to rook takes h2 checkmate.
Yeah, be careful. There's also g5, g4 to be slightly wary of.
Ooh.
Checkmate attack. I think we're going to see the result now. Like, time to give perpetual check. Rook check, rook check.
g5, g4, let's go.
Let's go. I don't know why he would do this with white. I guess it's not checkmate after f takes g5, but still, it's... Yeah, no chance of winning.
Maybe it's his only way to try, because like, what else can you do? But you're right, it looks like there is no chance regardless. Tabatabaei is taking his time. So g5 is one of his options. Other than that, I guess he can play with rook a2, put the rook behind the pawn. That's called a Tarrasch rook. And it's the most efficient way of dealing with a passed pawn.
Mm-hmm. The Tarrasch rook. Very instructive. Always rook behind passed pawns from the attacking or defending side is effective. And yeah, not much to do for white. Black does play g5. It's not really a threat because the white king will march up the board and hide behind the black pawns, but white is pretty much zugzwanged, Anna, so has to do something, has to give back a pawn in the near future.
Yeah, or push g4, but that allows f4 and your king is still stuck. That's just quite a sad story for the king on h3.
Mm-hmm. White has to be a bit careful, like a little bit.
Yeah, you could go back and forth with the rook if you don't want to continue pressing, because you're right, that king situation is delicate.
Mm-hmm. If he pushes forward, at least he pins the black king down. But then white's rook and king are both totally stuck and can't move. Okay, he does that. Now black will just wait with his king, most likely.
We could show how instructive it is that the black king needs to stay on the G and H files. Oh, no time for instructive rook end games.
This is actually also instructive, Anna, because black can just leave the G pawn and it's just still a draw. Like, if he defends it, but there's just no way forward for white. The black king will sit on G7 forever. And here we go.
And it's happening. So it's actually, we are getting the most instructive rook endgame here, because you are so right. Even though white is up 2 pawns, this is still a theoretical draw. And that's thanks to this setup where the black king will just sit on G7. You can push the white pawn all the way to G6. The black king will never touch that pawn, never move. You keep the king on the G7 square and just move your rook. As soon as the white king reaches the white pawn to defend the A7 pawn, then you start giving checks until you chase it away and go back to where you were behind the pawn.
Mm-hmm. Everything you said is actually happening on the board now, Anna. That's a perfect explanation. The king will never be able to relieve the white rook of its defensive duties. There'll be checks from behind. It is a draw, and we go to Armageddon.
And that is great news for us, because the Armageddon, first of all, they're going to get a new position. So there will be a new starting freestyle position out of the 959 positions. We will soon reveal which one is the one for this Armageddon. And once they get the position, David, they will bid for the time that they would be allowing to themselves to play that position. So there's a 10-minute start time that you bid from. You can say, for instance, okay, I feel like this position from white's perspective is pretty good. I might say I'm confident with 6 minutes. But your opponent maybe is bidding 5 minutes and 59 seconds and then wins the white pieces. With a draw, though, black is through. That's always the case in Armageddon. So it is quite tricky and always fun to see what approach the players will go with. How do you see this format, David? And of course, we don't know the position yet, so maybe the position will give more information on which side would you prefer.
Exactly. I want to see the position. It's a fun format. It's a fun but fair one. I think it's nice that the players get to see the position first. Otherwise, you're kind of... you're already in the dark a bit in freestyle, but otherwise it's just a bit of a gamble. In traditional chess, we have this Armageddon, Anna, and normally around 7 minutes is the sweet spot. Anything lower, and you might just get flagged. Anything kind of higher, and it's kind of unclear whether the result versus time odds is worth it. So I'm expecting the lower bid to be around the 7-minute mark.
I think you're right. And if it's around 7 minutes, will it be like 7 minutes, 1 second, or 6 minutes, 59? How do you like try to figure out what the opponent might be bidding? Because that's another part of the bidding, isn't it? It's mind games. You're trying to kind of picture what the opponent will go for. And if you want to win the bid, you're bidding like trying to bid a few seconds less than that.
Yeah, it's mind games. Like I've seen so many cases of, as you said, 6 minutes 59 being beaten by 6:58. So I would probably always go like 2 away from a round number, like 6:28, 6:58, or something along those lines. In terms of who wants white, I think Tabatabaei is more likely to be happy with the white pieces just because he was the closest to winning any of their games in this third place playoff in the first of them. And he had white in that one. So I think he'd be more okay with the must-win situation with white than Oparin, who didn't really put as much pressure on. But we'll see. We'll see.
I'm so curious, and I think your summary was really on point about Tabatabaei probably preferring the white pieces. We do have the starting position, so let's take a look at what the bid for the Armageddon time control will be about. Your thoughts, David, when you see this for the first time?
Okay, I'm looking at A pawns again. This time less scary. They don't attack rooks, but the A pawns are hanging. The B pawns are also loose. So both sides have 2 vulnerable pawns in the start position. Probably that can be easily fended off by like B6 or B3 early. But Anna, it is always a bit weird. Like sometimes in these types of positions, we see some quick knight jumps. Like the knight quickly gets to like B3, C5, boom, gets into B7. So maybe a little bit of early danger, but on the king side, everything looks quite fine.
I agree with you. I do think that we will see the F pawn being pushed, and it is similar in a way that the pawn is hanging, but the rook is not on B1, so slight change in that. The knight's in the corner, I'm never a fan of. But it's what it is. And for castling, again, that's one of the big questions always in freestyle chess. Which side do you think will be more likely that the players will want to castle to?
Ooh, I think kingside's safer, but it could be quite fun, especially for white in a must-win situation in Armageddon. Oh, I don't know. You only need to get the bishop out of the way, and the knights are automatically going to protect their king if white does go to the queen side.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting. It's a dilemma.
What do you think this means for the bidding? Because let's just remind everyone that this is Armageddon. This is going to be for the third place, but the players are now having a look at this position and thinking, how much time will I bid if I want to get the white pieces? But with the white pieces, you're in a must-win situation. So how much time would you give up? David, what do you think?
Yeah, I've always been kind of a fan.
Black. I'm saying it the wrong way, but I was trying to think the right way, but saying it the wrong way. Black has draw odds, so black will have less time. So therefore, you're bidding for how much time you're willing to give up to have the draw odds. Excuse my explanation.
Gotcha. So I've always been a fan of kind of backing myself and going for the win. So I've always been very happy with white in Armageddon in general. But for draw odds, I don't think I'd be willing to give up more than 2 or 3 minutes here. I just get so stressed about the clock situation. Tabatabaei has also been a bit slower, I think, on the clock. He's been behind in a couple of their games by a few minutes. So I think if I were in his shoes, I'd be more reluctant. I'd be happier with white. I'd be more reluctant to give up too much time. It's very much a taste thing. How about yourself, Anna? Do you want the ability to play solid, or do you want that extra kind of time in the bank for later?
I think usually I would prefer playing with the black pieces in an Armageddon for the draw odds, but I also am reluctant to give up much time for it. So I want both, which is not possible because you need to take some chances and think how much time you're willing to give up. We do have the bids in, meaning that Tabatabaei was willing to go down to as low as 8 minutes to have the black pieces. 8 minutes against 10 minutes was his bid, while Grigory Oparin bid for 8 minutes and 58 seconds. He was only gonna give up 1 minute to have draw odds with the black pieces. That's quite the difference. It's a 58 seconds, nearly a minute difference between the two bids. What do you think, David? What does this bit strategy give us as information on how the players are feeling about the starting position?
Wow, that's interesting. That means that Oparin is pretty happy to play with white. He thinks it's imbalanced enough. He's not he's not given up that much time. Like, I think this is a great for Tabatabaei. He's only giving 2 minutes, but he's getting a result in his pocket. The draw will suit him. I think that was a bit maybe or I don't want to say like a scared decision by Oparin, but to go that high is quite rare among these top grandmasters. They normally want the draw as a possible option, and I think this is fantastic news for the Iranian grandmaster. How about you, Anna? Has he hit the sweet spot, or is that still a bit of time that he's a bit too much time he's had to forfeit?
I think he will be happy with the 8 minutes. At the same time, I'm now trying to think from Oparin's perspective, and maybe that's also good news from his side, because it does show confidence that he is happy to play this, as you said, with the white pieces, and is confident that he can play it for a win. And let's remember that he was the sole leader yesterday in the Swiss stage of our playing tournament. Among 104 players, he was the only one on 6 out of 6, and he was leading all the way till the very final round. So maybe it's that confidence speaking, and he needs that confidence to play in a must-win situation now with the white pieces.
Mm-hmm. And here we go. We actually get total symmetry again. F4, F5, C4, C5. The one thing I'm scared about for Oparin, he is in a must-win situation. He hasn't won a single game today. This is his 5th game of the day. He didn't win any of his final 3 games yesterday. So it's been a bit of a stretch, like a dry spell for him. 7 games, without winning. So I'm a bit surprised at that kind of level of confidence, if it is just backing himself to win with white. And here we go. It looks like quite a closed position so far.
Yeah, you are right that the last bunch of games didn't go in his favor, but maybe he has managed to reset and just in general think of the great shape, the great form he has shown throughout the event. And his position is promising in a sense that he has created a little bit of an imbalance already with the piece placement. He might be castling queenside any moment now, which black cannot say the same. You still see the king stuck, and there are a lot of pieces that you need to clear out, especially if you want to castle kingside.
That is true. I'm seeing a few black pieces that might struggle, and like the bishop on d8. If you want to get it out, you have to play a move like e6. That blocks in the bishop on g8. Now that's not a good decision. The bishop on a4 is really well placed, actually. It's quite annoying that bishop takes c6 is just hanging over his head. Like, maybe it's a good move, maybe it's not, but combine that with queen f3. I can see white creating threats. Okay, good start to the game for Oparin. I was skeptical, but it looks like, he's found a good mode of development, at least.
He has, and he's playing really inspired chess. It's creative, it's energetic. He's got the time advantage now even further increased. Let's remember that it was Tabatabaei bidding for 8 minutes to have the draw odds with the black pieces, but now he's down to 6 minutes 41 seconds.
Time is ticking. He plays e5. That's a pawn sacrifice as well. White could now eliminate the knight on c6. Or is this a situation where white should not be jumping in?
That's a great question, whether you should go and grab the pawn or not. We could start analyzing that position, because for sure that's something that Oparin will be calculating here, taking the knight and then capturing the pawn on e5. It does give up a very pretty bishop. I really like that bishop, how it's putting pressure on black's pieces and not allowing the d-pawn to be pushed, because the c6 knight would be hanging. So it has its pros and cons. It is an extra pawn, and that's something to evaluate, how much compensation black has here for the pawn.
Yeah, he didn't go for this, but I think he was potentially scared of moves like bishop to g5, just at least stopping white from castling, hitting the rook. Maybe he didn't like the fact that the black knight would sit pretty on e6 for the rest of the game, and e5 is not going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm a bit surprised he didn't take this, but I can kind of understand the psychology behind it. He just wants to play quick, easy moves, Oparin. So he castled queenside. He was the first to make it, get his king safe. Now bishop f6, given a question mark. First mistake of the game by Tabatabaei, and the bar does rise. That's a bit scary now
Let's
to
see,
see.
why is it a question mark? Because it looks like a natural move to develop and defend your pawn at the same time. So there must be something really concrete that the computer is pointing out.
Okay, I'll peek into our oracle here. And apparently bishop takes c6 now, even though it doesn't win a pawn, is quite a strong move. You can do this in a few move orders, but now to take on e5, and it's that factor we said earlier, the black king's not going to get castled anytime soon. Despite playing against the bishop pair, white should be blowing open the center. And after another capture, the bishop gets in, the black king's still stranded. There's going to be threats brewing. And Anna, I'm going to say this is difficult, and he didn't play it, Oparin, but maybe still for later. Up his sleeve, he first creates the threat of taking on c6.
Yeah, it was really quite the line that the computer was pointing at. But as you have said, it still is in the spirit of the position. It still is something that he might go for. For instance, now he can take on e5 as well. And the f5 pawn will be hanging 2, depending on how black takes back on e5. So the situation hasn't gotten any easier for Tabatabaei.
Oh, yeah, that's not good news. The bar is getting higher. White is about to win a pawn. f5 in itself isn't such a big deal, but the fact that the white knight gets access to e4, I think that's going to be really annoying. And the white queen now is hit. I do like the fact that black pieces are centralized, but I think if she retreats on the f-file, preventing black from castling, not allowing the black king to castle through check, then white should have an advantage. There we go. Queen f3.
Cutting the king on the f-file. So black can castle, but on the other side, you have to settle for castle queen side.
I forgot that was legal, I must admit, but he does it. He plays it. He didn't forget. I mean, Tabatabaei pawn down, but at least he's active.
Yeah, and he finally managed to finish his development. The king is safer, rooks are connected. The rook now can come to f8. So he does have some compensation for the pawn. And white needs to also still hurry with his development. The bishop on g1 in particular is not a good one to look at when it comes to how passive the rook is on h1, completely blocked, unable to move, unable to get into the game.
I actually feel like in terms of practicality, like this is a great sacrifice from Tabatabaei. Somehow, how many moves in a row? White's moved the queen 3 times out of the last 4. It's about to be a 4th time out of the last 5. And blunder, mistake.
But it was not taken advantage of. Apparently, you could have taken on c3 when the pawn was pushed. If we want to show it real quick, David.
Bishop takes. This was a blunder by Oparin. He could have allowed this, and it's the follow-up that's the real backbreaker here. Hitting the queen, hitting the d3 pawn, and the queen struggles to protect it. Queen e2 would be met by this skewer. Queen and rook hit, and queen e4. I'm guessing there's just a slow play here of the attack. The bishop will come to f5, and this pawn will be doomed. Maybe he just kind of missed optical illusion. It looks like white's coming in, but everything's covered by the black knight on a8. And yeah, he missed that opportunity. Instead, he played h5, threatening bishop g4, but d4, blue arrow, found, and white's motoring forward.
And he knows that he's getting into trouble. You can see the expressions on the Tabatabaei's face that something had already gone wrong, and he is fully aware of it. He's still trying, of course. He should. He will be fighting here. He only needs a draw. With a draw, black wins in this Armageddon game, but that draw is now further away from his reach because white's central pawns are really powerful. Threatening to push the pawn is one of the lines and one of the moves you need to always take into consideration. The fork that would attack the knight and the bishop, or c5 targeting the queen, and starting this attack against the black king. After the trade, the knight is sitting nicely on e3 guarding the c4 pawn and also heading toward the central squares.
Yeah, Tabatabaei, he played h5 instantly. I think that was panic about the clock situation, but it was just a minute between them, and he wanted to get bishop g4 in, but he never got the time. His bishop was hit. Now the knight protects g4. He's hanging this pawn. Maybe he wants the white queen to get deflected, get distracted. White doesn't need to do that, of course. But yeah, it's getting dramatic now. I think he's panicking too much. It's that Armageddon dilemma, right, Anna? He was thinking about the clock when he could have been thinking about the moves. He didn't realize he had that one shot, that one chance.
Yeah, it was such a critical moment, and he went very quickly with his decision, and something that I think he immediately after realized how he missed the chance and stepped into White's chances, because that d4 move was key for Oparin, that of course was found by Grigory Oparin. Now after Queen g3, this is a really advantageous endgame. If you were to take on g3, that opens up the h5 for the rook, and d5 is still on the cards, that big fork that would either pick up the knight or the bishop. So bishop f7 steps out of the fork, but d5 is still one of the main moves that White will be looking at.
Oh, and a shake of the head there, exhaling heavily there from Amin Tabatabaei. He realizes he's in big trouble. Pawn down. He's still a minute down on the clock. He hasn't closed that gap so much. Yeah, what next though for White? d5 played. I like that. He does allow one black knight into e5, but the other black knight now is a bit caged. The one on c7, and he's going into squares. d6 is potentially a landing spot. Bishop g6 gets out of the way. Okay, it's not over, Anna. It's still a pawn, but he's going to keep fighting, keep hustling.
Yeah, the game goes on and the time is ticking. There is no increment. So this is absolutely the final minutes of this match for the third place between Oparin and Tabatabaei. After bishop to g6, I'm not sure if he'll go for knight d6 check to jump out of the threat over the knight. He is going for it. I guess the other option was to defend the knight or go elsewhere. But knight d6, very logical. And now you have a moment to perhaps take this opportunity to bring the rooks to the open files.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good move. He needed to do something about the threat of knight d3 check, followed by knight into f2. And he's calculated here very nicely that after knight to d3, he can actually move his king away, I think, and allow the b2 pawn to drop. It's something similar to what we showed earlier in a Nodirbek game. The knight on b2 might just find itself trapped. Very important. And okay, I mean, Tabatabaei is trying to bring his other knight into the game. That was a bit trapped. But this has given White time to trade off his bishop.
Gets an exclamation mark, that bishop trade offer. And the knight on the edge is still very clumsy. If it comes to b4, it still doesn't find a footing. So it's really hard for Black to activate his pieces. Knight to c5 would be the way to go, but that is met by b4.
Oh, that poor knight. That is not a happy piece. And the White king is happy to start advancing as well. b4, like you said, Anna, is just coming in now. If all the rooks disappear, probably it's just a winning endgame for White with the extra material. If the knights disappear, probably also the rook endgame is favorable for White. I don't really see any world in which he saves this, and now he's jumped in, but those black knights are not moving. Like, if you can stop knight f2, they're almost stuck, glued to each other.
Yeah, this is such a tough situation for Tabatabaei. At least the time situation is getting closer, so that's good news for Tabatabaei, who started with 2 minutes down on the clock for the draw that Black has, the draw odds. Now after knight f2, I'm expecting this rook to move away, but there aren't too many squares. Rook h4 or rook g1.
Mm-hmm. Rook g1's a bit of a sad square, but I guess he's banking on the fact that at some point the knight on f2 might have to give way, and then he can start trading off some rooks. But it's getting a bit sharper now. Ooh, king of the hill. Hitting d4.
He has won. That's it. I thought we were seeing freestyle. So many variants.
I would love a King of the Hill World Championship.
I absolutely love King of the Hill as well, but freestyle is another one of my favorite ones. And it has been so spectacular to see so many different starting positions and many different approaches. I think it's been a blast to cover this event. This could be very well our final, well, could be. No, it's officially is our final game. I'm like, can we have an Armageddon after the Armageddon? No, this is the last one, sadly. But what an event this has been. And Oparin fighting for the third place.
Exactly. He's closing in on it, but still needs to do the hardest part of any chess game. He needs to convert the advantage. The question is whether he trades off knights now, or whether he, for example, jumps back somewhere. Knight e4, he trades off the f2 knight. I think that was the right idea. The f2 knight was just clogging up his position, neutralizing the two white rooks on its own. So now the white king is going to go back to d4 if facing any checks, and he's going to trade rooks. It's just like a maths equation. He's trying to make it as simple as possible here. Yeah,
it is looking really good for Oparin. Tabatabaei still has, of course, and has had for the entire game draw odds, but it's really hard to achieve that. As I'm saying it, though, maybe I'm jinxing it because king e5 was a slight mistake. The king had to go immediately to d4 so that it wouldn't allow the black rook to be activated with a check. Still quite a big advantage for Oparin, of course.
Yep, big advantage. But the knights are jumping now, and where there are knights, there are forks. And will we see any mistakes? Rook f7 given a question mark as well. That feels harsh. He's going after the
Very
d7
harsh. Pawn. So natural. The rooks belong on the 2nd or 7th rank. We all aim for that, but not here in this position. Now, according to the computer, you gotta push that g-pawn because it's hanging. So that one is not that much of a mystery as why rook f7 was a mistake.
Yeah, I think if Tabatabaei needed to win, he would have found the better move there. He would have actually started taking pawns and creating counterplay. But king c8, because he just needs a draw, he wants to cover everything. Wants to protect d7. I'm really surprised he's not playing g4. Like,
yeah, what else can you play? Like that pawn is hanging. He's going back to f3, which is quite a passive way to protect it. g4 looked like the most obvious. Now he's pushing g4 after having retreated.
That was a missed trick. Now, knight d2 again. There would have been ideas of knight d2, knight b3, trying to harass the white king. Oh, this is where inaccuracy creeps in. Anna, look at the clock. It's dead level. They're basically mirroring each other.
I think the position will start mattering each time less and less because there is no increment. This is all they have to play for the rest of the game. A minute and a couple of seconds. This is it. The final minutes of this crucial game for the 3rd place.
Tabatabaei gets his rook onto an open file, but he's denied entry. And he goes back. He's saying, please repeat the position.
Which is a mistake. So now the knight is active, the rook is active, the pawn is hanging. He has missed it.
Oh, he literally had his hand over his mouth there, trying to hide the curse words maybe. He's dropped his valuable c5 pawn. Now it's back to level and things are disappearing. This is where draw odds are so important, Anna.
The draw odd that Tabatabaei has, he is winning the game by drawing the game. He gives the check to pick up the g2 pawn as well.
And the clock. He's totally fine on time, Tabatabaei, a few seconds in it. He just needs to speed up. I think the only way Oparin wins this is somehow on time, so he needs to play every move instantly. Just keep material on the board. Don't allow the rooks off. Keep them on.
Only flagging skills will come in here now after the pawn advantage is gone. King d4 is another mistake according to the computer, but the moves themselves no longer matter when there's 42 seconds left on the board. a4 for white, and he plays it, he finds it. What a game. Goodness me, but not knight c8. That wasn't the follow-up.
Yeah, knight f5 was better, hitting the black rook and hitting the d6 pawn, but this is life. Accuracy here is never going to be perfect. It's always going to be wrong, and okay, he needs to keep the rooks on in order to win this, but his pawns are disappearing. He hits the rook. He's not gaining any time, Oparin. And there we go.
27 seconds brutal. Against 22. He at least has now the time advantage. Grigori Oparin a pawn down, but he has an extra couple of seconds.
Oh, this is stressful. This is pure mouse speed, mouse skills now. But it's so easy to play with black. You just start pushing your pawn. White is the one forced to find some weird resources, and the pawn's so close to promotion now. He gets rid of it. If the rook is removed, he wins. Tabatabaei, but time, Anna, time. The clocks are red.
Time. 11 seconds left against 12.
He just needs to make the 50 move rule. He needs it, Tabatabaei, and
the draw by repetition. Oparin stepped into the same pattern. Tabatabaei with the draw wins the Armageddon and takes 3rd place. I think this is a game that neither player will be satisfied with. Oh gosh, what we have just witnessed, it was everything. David, your thoughts on this final Armageddon game? And of course, we want to remind the viewers to not go anywhere because we will have an interview with the winner of the play-in tournament, Nodirbek Abdusattorov, coming up shortly.
Yeah, my thoughts. simply that I'm glad it wasn't me playing. That was that was a real test of nerves, a test of courage. Ultimately, Tabatabaei rose to the top, but Oparin looking back on some missed chances. That was a fun way to end the day.
It was a really fun way for us, not as much fun for the players, especially the final seconds were just so stressful, nerve-wracking, but it's what it is in Armageddon. Both players honestly would have deserved that third place. Luckily for them, that wasn't about the qualification spot, because we do have a player, Nodirbek Abdusattorov, who has won it all. He did an incredible comeback yesterday in the Swiss stage in a must-win situation at the end of the tournament to qualify to today's knockout format, and he won in a very confident fashion. This is his tournament, and he will be joining the other 7 players at the Freestyle World Chess Championship that's taking place next month in Weisenhaus, Germany. We will take a short break, but when we are back, we will have an interview with Nodirbek himself, and I do want to remind everyone to use !TIX in the chat, because before the World Championship in Freestyle Chess, there will be, of course, the finals of the Speed Chess Championship. David and I will be there, and we would love to see you in London. So after a short break, we'll be here with Nodirbek, and make sure to get your tickets to London. Welcome back, everyone, to our broadcast of the playing tournament for the Freestyle World Chess Championship. There was only one qualification spot on the line. 104 grandmasters, many titled players, started out to fight for that spot. And the last man standing is Grandmaster Nodirbek Abdusattorov, who is joining us now here at our virtual studio. Nodirbek, congratulations! How does it make you feel that you have done it? Out of a field of 104 players, you are the player to qualify for that one remaining spot.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was quite challenging. I think the toughest part was qualifying for knockout. It was a bit random at the end, but okay. Once I qualified to the knockout, I thought, okay, it should be possible to win the matches and qualify for the for the World Championship. The Swiss part was, of course, very shaky. I lost to Pranav the round 4. After that, okay, I thought I have to, score at least +5, which was not easy, and I think it was a bit random at the end. Generally I'm very happy with my play. I traveled to Vachier-Lagrave today, and I couldn't sleep well, and I didn't prepare anything, so I'm happy. Despite all of that, I managed to show some really good chess and made to the World Championship.
And Nodirbek, how much do you enjoy freestyle chess in general, and who are you most looking forward to playing at the World Championship next month?
Yeah, I really enjoy playing freestyle. Actually, I was invited to South Africa for the last tour. But as I was playing in the London Classic, I had to skip that event. So of course, I wish it would continue to be a freestyle tour, but they're making only one tournament this year, and it's going to be, I think, a little bit random. But of course, everyone has a decent chance to win the event, and it's going to be, I think, a little bit random. In 3 days, you can't predict anything, and it's going to be, I think, very entertaining.
When it comes to freestyle chess, what would you say that is the magic for you? What do you like about this format the most?
Well, I think it's unpredictability, because you can't predict what's going to happen, and especially when you are playing against these top players, they are really well prepared. I mean, I can tell that Magnus is he is extremely strong in opening part, because I think that he had so many practice, and he has played so many games. He has a huge experience. As for my kind of as for other players, I think they're also concentrating on other events, on classical and rapid and blitz. So there is little time to do anything special, to really concentrate on freestyle. But I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to combine it, and I think I've improved a bit since last time I've played in Las Vegas. Since then, I've checked some games, and I have done some preparation, and really helped me in this tournament.
And Nodirbek, 2025 ended. You were so close to winning the World Blitz Championship. How motivated are you this year to go one step further, maybe win a world title on freestyle, and even better as the year goes on?
Yeah, I mean, this of course it's a big goal, you know, to win some title. I mean, this year is going to be full of big tournaments. Like we will have the Olympiad in our country, and there's going to be also this Total Chess Tour for the first time. And yeah, I mean, there's little time to rest and to feel relaxed, because I'm playing in a Vachier-Lagrave literally like tomorrow, and it's a bit tight schedule this year.
No rest for the wicked.
Yeah.
Speaking of the tight schedule, among the tournaments that you will be playing this year, as you have mentioned already, you're in Vachier-Lagrave, you'll be playing in Tata Steel, just starting tomorrow. Are there any other tournaments you can reveal for your fans so that they know what to look for your calendar for this year?
Yeah, I'm playing in Prague Masters. It starts on 24th of February. And in March, there is no tournament, so I can prepare a bit in the time, and yeah, I'm planning to play in Sharjah Masters if it will not clash with any other tournament, because I really like playing in open tournaments. And yeah, I didn't set any special goal for this year. I just want to improve my chess and just get the joy from the game.
That sounds like a really great goal to have for the year and in general in life. Nodirbek, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations again on the win. Very well-deserved win. And we called you one of the main favorites, if not the main favorites, before the event started, and you proved it, why you are the favorite in freestyle chess as well. Congratulations and good luck both for the Freestyle World Championship and in Tata Steel in Vachier-Lagrave as well, of course.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Good luck.
This has been it, our play-in tournament, with the winner being Grandmaster Nodirbek Abdusattorov, who is going to be playing in Tata Steel Chess, so you can follow Nodirbek's games from tomorrow on in Vachier-Lagrave. No rest for the wicked, as David said, and what an event this has been. Let's take a final look at the bracket. David, how the tournament ended today in the knockout stage.
Yeah, in the end, it was convincing. He was very, very impressive, Nodirbek. Throughout the semi-finals and the final, he played a great game, a sparkling win with the white pieces against Tabatabaei. Nudged past him 1.5 to a half. And then in the final, when he got a chance against Pranav in the first game, he took it. Second one, never really looked in doubt. All four players in these knockout stages deserve to be there. They were fantastic. But yeah, he was just that little bit above the rest. And Anna, I think it's just that love of chess. Like, even when I was his age, Nodirbek's age, I struggled to go from tournament to tournament to tournament. I struggled to recover from setbacks like he had at the World Blitz Championship. So close to beating Magnus. But he wants to keep going. He still has the hunger, the drive. And yeah, it's going to be so much fun to watch him in these next few months.
And that's so inspiring to hear. As you said, David, it's just that love of chess, the passion, the determination. He has just traveled to Vachier-Lagrave. The guy literally has been traveling between yesterday's Swiss stage of the play-in and today's knockout stage, and it's as if nothing happened. He just wins it all confidently, sharply, playing fast. How does he do it? Maybe that's why he's one of the most promising players of today's generation, and he will be playing both in Tata Steel and in the Freestyle World Championship taking place next month. David, this has been such a thrill of an event to cover alongside you. I hope that we will meet each other soon again, and I know we will in London. So people, get your tickets to London Speeches Finals before the Freestyle World Championship. And again, thank you so much to everyone tuning in for the broadcast, and in the name of the whole production team and chess.com, we would love to see you in London and at any future event. David, thank you one more time for the Connect 4. I will never forget your wisdom.
Thank you, Anna. It's been a lot of fun. Sorry for corrupting you with the Connect 4, but I hope everyone learned that lesson as well.
Important lesson. Thank you so much for joining, everyone, and see you soon at the next events of chess.com.